concise. Don't be verbose. Don't use 100 words if 10 words can do the job. Um, and that doesn't mean, you're going to be speaking for 3 to 5 minutes, I understand, but you still want to be concise and not ramble. Again, if a few words can do the job, don't try to explain a whole paragraph if just one sentence is going to do it. And concrete. And meaning about that is this has got to be specific, understandable, and salient to exactly what you're talking about. We move on to now what I call the most effective elements when you're putting together any type of presentation to any audience. And certainly when you're going to be talking to and speaking to, 1,000 people plus at Nantucket Town Meeting.
Yes. Is that on? In this next section, we're going to talk about, as Brad said, how to make your content as effective as possible and persuasive at town meetings. So we're going to talk about the importance of knowing the audience, importance of practicing, and yes, practice does make perfect, preparation, planning, and how to be engaging, and how to all do that in 3 to 5 minutes. So as far as knowing the audience, again, very, very important. This is not the city of Boston, it's Nantucket Island. So relatively small community. You should have a good idea who will be at town meeting, who will be vocal for or against an article, and how they are going to be so impassioned, whether pro or con. So prior to town meeting on May 4th, and try to anticipate their concerns and arguments. Take a look at what's happening out there on social media, read the papers, read the letters to the editor, and you can anticipate probably who is going to be there, who is going to speak, and what they're going to talk about. So be ready to address any of those pain points that they may likely bring up at town meeting. And you have to remember, every argument usually is legitimate. So you want to make sure that you're taking the high road as well. When when you're learning, taking a look at what people are saying prior to town meetings. So put yourselves in their shoes while you're preparing. And again, very important, the presentation is about them, not you. You want to make sure that those who are sitting in their chairs at town meeting know why this article is being presented, why it's a good idea, why it's good for the townspeople, and why money should be spent on it. You need to be compelling and persuasive. And again, a lot of people are at town meeting for 1 or 2 articles. So try to get their attention. Use layperson's terms. I know it's very easy, especially with some folks. I know, Vince, you could talk in acronyms and scientific jargon all day long, but you want to make sure that people are understanding what's at stake with each and every article. So again, do a lot of homework prior to town meeting. And especially here on the island, you can anticipate who's going to be there and who's going to be talking and who's going to be vocal. I don't live here, but I can because I watch the select board every week. Again, practice. And that's why we're doing this 59 days out from town meeting. So important to be prepared and ready. There's a lot at stake with each of these articles that we are going to talk about today. So rehearse your presentation multiple times prior to town meeting. And we'll start that process today. Again, either by yourself, by your others, do it at home. And I've got to tell you, if you don't have our email or our number, we'll make sure you have it today. Glad to practice with you between now and town meeting. That's what we're here for. So look forward to hopefully speaking with each and every one of you as we get ready for town meeting. Recording yourself with your prepared marks is always very helpful. Gives you an idea as to, how you sound. It might be unpersuasive enough. Do I look nervous? Try to do that if you can, and especially while you're going to be standing at town meeting. Rehearse with your visual aids as well. If you're going to be using slides or any other type of prop, you want to make sure that those are included in your rehearsal. And again, very, very, very important, time yourself. 3 to 5 minutes is what we're looking for here. And I know that each and every one of you in this room could probably talk for an hour about each of these articles. So make sure you get the important points up front early and then reiterate them at the end. So again, can't stress this enough. We are here to help you prepare for May 4th. So please reach out, and glad to be the sounding board and listen as much as you want. Some more tips on preparation. Again, very important. Know the audience. Can't stress that enough. Find out what the scuttlebutt is around town, what people are saying, who's saying it, what groups are involved. Can't be prepared enough from that perspective. And there's a lot here that people are talking about. So know the material and be able to answer questions effectively. And that's where we can also help you. And we'll start that process today as well. Preparing some very difficult questions that you may have to answer at town meeting. Some that we hope you won't have to answer, but we can come up with them just to make sure you're prepared. So always be ready for the unexpected. Very important also to structure your 3 to 5 minute summary overview with the beginning, middle, and end. Beginning, just a quick overview. Why is this important to the town? What is it going to, how is it going to benefit you, the voter? And then get into a little more detail as you go into that 3 to 5 minute presentation. And at the end, again, always very important to reiterate the benefits, the reason why we're asking you to vote in this article and why it's so important. And again, one thing that we say for town meeting is just to dress professionally. Not that that would probably be an issue here on the island, but you know, we've certainly seen this with other clients of ours. And that doesn't mean suit and tie by any means. So just and if you're wearing a town logoed uniform or something you wear, that's fine as well too. Some additional planning tips and pointers, very important for your summary introduction for the article. Try to create an outline that you can have. I know that you're probably going to be one of the podiums. You don't want to come across as if you're just reading a script or off a slide. So create an outline for yourself. Again, we can help with that. And if you practice, that's going to make it all the easier, look more natural, more conversational. Create a strong opening and closing. Again, compelling and persuasive. Right off the bat, we want to know why this article is on the warrant, why it's important, and why money should be spent on it, and how it is going to benefit you, the resident of this town. And again, for the third time in the past few minutes, wrap it up and reiterate your message. Make sure it gets conveyed loud and clear so people are ready to vote. Engagement. When you are in the auditorium, surrounded by people, it's very important, if you can, when there is any back and forth conversation, that you are looking folks in the eye. I know that's going to be very difficult if someone's in the gym asking a question, but if at all possible, try to be as conversational and engaging as possible, looking at the person asking the question. Don't be monotone. That's how you lose attention. Try to vary your voice and pace. Again, this is where practice comes in, and we can certainly help you with that as well. Add emphasis. Keep the audience engaged. Make sure there's nobody snoozing there in the auditorium. We're going to talk about body language as we move forward this morning. Again, very important for emphasis of points and to make sure that you are really amplifying the points that you need to. Visual aids, again, very important. And to the conversation and the argument that you're going to present and advocate for, but make sure that they are legible. We've all been guilty of putting PowerPoint slides together with too much text on them. make sure they are easily read and compelling. And I don't know, you can have handouts as well if you want to add additional information. So additional tips and pointers for during your presentation. And again, 3 to 5 minutes. Start strong in that the first 30 seconds. Again, compelling, persuasive. I'm here to talk about this article, again, why it's important, why we should be voting for it. Try to, if possible, have a compelling statistic. And just taking a look this morning at some of the articles, Beth, you can probably have a compelling statistic about turf fields, right? There's a lot of data out there about those and the PFAS component or lack thereof. Bring that up. Again, don't mean to pick on you, Vince, but you have a lot of data about erosion, right? Bring it up. This is why we're asking for you to consider this article. And again, we can also help research some of these stats for you if need be. Be yourself, be authentic. Don't be stiff, don't be nervous, don't try to be a professor. You just, again, be yourself, be the person that people see every day around the island. Very important to control your pace. And again, this is where the practice comes in. 3 to 5 minutes, no speed talking. Just make sure that people are understanding. And it's always to make sure that you control your pace. I always like to identify somebody in the audience that I can look at that can either say, yes, no, slow down, or whatnot. So try to identify someone nearby that can give you the high sign, or to slow down, or perhaps move it along. We're going to talk about body language. Brad's going to address that soon. Close with a dynamic ending just to make sure that you are closing the sale. Again, I want to ask you to please review the benefits and again, compelling. This is why we are asking you to consider this article, why it's important to the town, why we need to vote for this. Always leave them wanting more. That's why you're going to be available to answer questions and talk, right? So we want to make sure that your 3 to 5 minute presentation is informational, it's informative, but we want you to also answer any questions you have, the audience may have. And again, got to reiterate, try to keep it in layperson's terms, no inside baseball, just so the audience will understand what you are trying to accomplish. Now, Brad's going to talk about body language.
Before we do that, any questions, comments before we proceed? Okay. This is my favorite part because this is where you can really make points of emphasizing and really make sure that you're connecting with the audience and making sure that that you're really engaging with them and that they're engaged with you. The first is look at their facial expressions. I'm looking around right now. I'm a real student of body language. I can tell when people are paying attention to me or their minds are wandering or whether they're dubious of what I'm saying or whether they agree with me. I can tell Brooke is agreeing with me. All right. But I can look around in everybody's face. If there were 1,000 people in here, I bet I could guess 99% of them. Just because I studied this and been doing this for so long. But take a look at their facial expressions. If you see that kind of dazed look and they're not really paying attention or they're starting to look around or whatever, you're losing them. And you've got to gain that back. So that's important. Some of the things we're going to be talking about right now will make sure that you can maintain their attention, which is so critical. Use purposeful gestures. So for instance, if you're talking about, I want to make 3 points. Point number 1 about the turf field. Point number 1 is this. Number 2 is this. And number 3 is this. Because you're emphasizing that. And people will pay attention to that. And you're breaking it down. And I go back to the 5 C's. You're making it very clear and very concrete. Have a powerful posture. Don't slouch. Don't lean on the podium. Stand up there. Powerful posture. You're powerful. Your speech, your presentation is powerful. What you have to say is critical and important to all of them, to all of the voters. So again, when you're standing up here, and you'll all be doing this later on, don't hold on to the podium. Don't use that as a crutch. Just stand up straight. And you're able to point, do that, all that kind of thing. Okay. Number 2, position your feet and shoulder apart. Don't just stand like this and don't stand like this, but literally, this will give you more of a very relaxed feeling and you're going to look like you're in control. And isn't that important when you're talking at town meeting? It really is, because some of the people there may have a contrary and will have a contrary opinion, but you want to be able to come across not only what you're saying, but just even the way how you're feeling, that you're in control of this. Don't keep moving to distract your audience. Don't keep moving like this and walking around. You want to be able to stay right there. I don't mean like a statue. Relax, but you don't keep walking around and moving around to distract. What does this mean? What does that mean? What if you stand up like there and you're like this? What does this mean? Anybody? Closed off. What else? What's that? Protecting yourself, defensive. Anything else? When you're in front of 1,000 people and you're like this, how do you think you're coming across after you've been asked a couple of tough questions? They're going to think you're very defensive. They may think you're arrogant about it. I said this. This is what you should vote for. You never want to cross your arms. You don't want to put your hands behind you either. What do you got there? Rick, if you stood up there and if you were standing, what are you hiding behind there? Your hands are right out here. Don't put your hands in your pockets either. Put your hands right out here. Oh, some more coffee. Thank you so much. Oh, that's not mine? Okay. But anyways, you want to relax. Oh, thank you. You want to relax your hands just like this. So you know what you can do is point and gesture. Don't keep your hands down here. No fig leaves, please. No hands behind you. Don't be, fidgeting with a podium or leaning on it. But your hands right here. Makes you very relaxed, and you can gesture and say wide, big opportunity here, and count 3 great reasons why the new turf should be on the field, kind of thing. And again, what's that? All right. And there's probably 10 different reasons, not just 3. You have to go, well, number 10, everything like that. And again, don't cling to the podium. If you do that, it shows nervous. You don't want to show nervous. Hey, listen, anybody who's going to be speaking in front of hundreds of people, it's going to be a little bit nervous. That's all fine. Just don't let them, as they say, don't let them see you sweat. Be comfortably, be confident. Okay. Again, we talked about not slouching, not shifting your weight. Emphasize your points to convey shape, size, or intensity. So talk about, hey, we have this big idea. And spread your arms wide, because that emphasizes it and that gets attention. I just saw everybody, saw a few people kind of looking to the side. And as soon as I just opened my arms up, that just emphasized what I was talking about. It's a big idea. Don't be distracted by anything you have. Be careful when you've got, again, you get rid of your phone. Turn your phone off. I know we all have them, but turn your phone off. You don't want to hear it ringing inside or beeping when you're speaking. That will distract you. It'll distract anybody. And, don't start scratching your face or with your hair and everything like that. Very natural thing for people to do. Remember, those things are going to be distracting to you, and it's a sign of nervousness.
Smartwatch too.
And that's right. And don't point at anybody too. Rick, that's a good question there. That's kind of can be interpreted as very rude. So when you're answering a question, you don't just like you. Don't point. Don't ever point. All right, let's talk about next page about eye contact. And I'm talking about meaningful eye contact. I'm not just talking about looking around like that. That does nothing. I'm talking about meaningful eye contact. You're connecting. Think about you're connecting with people. I'm looking, really looking at them. I'm not just glancing at them. I'm looking at them. You want to be able to look at people and complete that thought. You just smile at me because you like that, right? but right, I want to connect with people. I don't want to just glance at them. I know there's hundreds of people there, and you won't see all of them, but some people spend a few seconds and make that connection. Don't you feel that connection I'm making with you right now? Right, absolutely, positively. And nod at them if they understand. Right? You make that point in saying this is going to be very important for the town to be able to do it. And you're not, and try to find somebody, because you will always find somebody who will nod. It's like a magic wand. I always going to be able to find somebody, right? Right. See, there you go. But you look for people who are going to be, nod and focus on them. And you make them also, when you do that, as part of the conversation. And that's what you want to do. Think of this as not so much as a presentation, but as a conversation you're having with fellow residents in Nantucket, because that could be the most effective kind of thing. Be very authentic with your message. And I know that you all will be. And reflect your emotions. If you're passionate about something, that's okay. It's okay to be excited about it. It doesn't mean you're going to scream and say, oh, this, but show them how important this is. And if your passion comes through, that's going to be another way to connect. And it's also going to be the way for people to pay attention to you and to persuade them to vote, what you're trying to get them to do. Don't show a blank expression. What a difference between if I'm animated and I'm looking, but if I'm just like this, that's not going to connect with the audience, particularly if you're answering a question. So always, again, it's that positive attitude. You're looking forward to those questions. You're looking forward to speaking, and just don't show that blank expression. I used to be in theater, and I remember when I was staring in one particular play I was in, and I started staring at the floor. And the director told me afterwards, you've just lost 80% of your power by staring at the floor. You've lost that connection with the audience. And it's the same thing goes with if you're staring at the ceiling or if you're staring at the floor. You have lost that connection. You've lost 80% of the people who were paying attention to you, and you may only have 15% of the people in the first place paying attention to you. So I don't know what that calculation is, but it's a very small percentage. So again, keep looking at the audience, not up at the ceiling, and certainly not at the floor. Don't move your eyes too quickly either. Don't dart around like this. It's going to make you seem like you're very, very nervous. Instead, it's very, you're making that connection with everybody. And you're just looking, and you have a very controlled pace. But don't stare at them too long. It would make you feel uncomfortable. I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, Rick. Okay? I can't? Okay. All right. So I don't want to stare too long, but don't dart or drive. I mean, these are pretty serious things that you're going to be talking about. So you're not going to, smile, but don't laugh at something that's, something that's going to be, because these are all serious things you want people to vote on. If you read the audience. If you see the audience disengaged, if they're not paying attention to you, or they're frowning, you got to overcome that, because now they're not believing what you're saying, or they're, not persuading them. You've got to read that, and you got to understand that you got to make sure that you are persuading them. And if they are disengaged, you got to get their attention. Great way of doing it is raising your voice a little bit, because then all of a sudden you're getting those people from from their slumber.
So how do you do that in the room that we all know? There's people that are always going to do that, what you're saying.
Sure.
It doesn't really matter if they're just.
You cannot.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Back there that are going to be dour all the time, no matter what.
Absolutely. Absolutely, possibly. And some people will be looking at their phones, And some people won't be paying attention, and some people are only going to be there for one or two things, and they're not interested in what you're saying. Totally understand that. You won't get 100%, but you want to get more than 15%, and you want to get as many people as you can in the audience to be paying attention to you. And if they don't do that, that's the way it is. You know, I always like looking at the conventions, whether it's Democrat or Republicans, and I always seeing the speakers. But you see some people, and again, of the thousands of people in there, some people, regardless of speakers, just aren't paying attention. Now, maybe they're doing it on purpose because they don't agree with that particular speaker. You're not going to get 100%. That's okay. Try to get as many people as you can. There's a big difference between if you're not resonating and not connecting with people at all. And there's a big difference between you're doing the best you can and you're doing it and you get as many people as possible. Remember, you want to get as many people to persuade as many people as possible to vote for what you're presenting. And if they kind of tune out a little bit during that, when it comes to vote, they may not even remember what you talked about.
I think Brooke had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brooke.
I wanted to respond to that.
Sure.
They're the people that come to the mic and to talk negatively about an article, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you're not in a back and forth with them.
Right.
What you're trying to do is connect with the people around them that are trying to decide which
Sure.
Yes.
way to go.
Yeah.
And so it's really about not picking a fight with that person, but speaking to the other people who are listening and trying to decide.
Sure.
Did you guys ever get that?
But no, but I think that's true, Brooke, is that again, you're speaking to the audience. There are going to be some people who are going to be, voting against or the anti, and have already made their minds up. But that's okay. But you're trying to reach everybody else, the people who are trying to determine which way they should vote.
The ones in the middle.
The ones in the middle, in terms of that, which, but you've got to, in order to do it though, you got to have them paying attention. And if they're not paying attention to what you're saying, then, the people who get up and who are anti that particular article could make their compelling case. And then all of a sudden they wake up and they're paying attention to that. And it's not just not paying attention. I don't want you to think that people aren't paying attention, but it's got to be clear is what you're saying. It can't be confusing. Because if they're confused, then they're not quite sure. And we see that all the time at town meetings. We work with a lot of municipalities, and you see that sometimes these articles are presented and people just were confused. I just wasn't sure as to which way to vote. And you want to make sure that you're going to be persuasive. Any other questions on that? But again, the way to be able to get their attention, I'm talking about terms of get their attention, is to change your voice. You just don't speak monotone.
Mhm.
And then you talk about how important this is to our town and how this is going to benefit our town and the value that we're bringing to the town by this particular article. And you look for people, are going to nod, right?
Chief Cranston.
Chief.
So one item that just to me when we get up and speak at a meeting is from the department head perspective, we're facing the stage.
Yeah.
So we physically have our back to the entire audience. So on the right side, that makes me in particular less nervous.
Mhm.
When it's harder, I think, to connect. So I don't know if there's more pros and cons to that setup.
So we are going, the plan is we're going to set up a podium down in the front, in between where I sit and where the board sits, kind of like right in the middle down front. So the speakers will be facing the audience. And the idea is everybody gives their 3 to 5 minute overview. If it's a town sponsored article and it's called, you explain it, you stay there. Questions, misinformation to be addressed while you are standing there. This will be offered to citizen sponsors as well if their article is called. We're going to practice this on Thursday, April 9th at the auditorium. But that hopefully will remove the awkwardness of where you stand and how you face people and stuff like that.
Okay.
Oh, and the misinformation part, I'm kind of in conversations with the moderator about this so that we can work out some kind of little signal. If something is really not accurate that somebody says out in the audience and we want to address it, I want to try to signal her somehow and also signal the department head so she could say like, Chief Cranston, did you want to respond to that or something like that? And you can say, no, it's not accurate to say blah, blah, blah. Here are the facts or whatever the thing might be. Because I think we all know there's a lot of misinformation that gets said, but it doesn't get refuted or addressed or corrected. So this is supposed to give the opportunity to do that.
Any other questions on that particular body language? In terms of your voice and breathing, and that's important too. You want to be able to relax before you're going to speak. Just take some deep breaths. You know, we're all nervous speaking. It's very important what you're going to be doing. And we're all nervous, you know, when you get up in front of speak of, 1,000 people. But you, again, vary your tone so that it's not boring. Speak not from your voice, but from your diaphragm. Actors or singers are always talking about speaking from the diaphragm so that you're going to be, and I know you're going to have a microphone, but you still want to come across, and that's going to be another way of coming across as confident and assertive rather than just talking from your voice like this, speaking from your diaphragm. So that's coming up in doing that. And use pauses. Pause a lot of times when you stop talking. One of the things I teach at one of the colleges in Boston at night. And very often, when you're in a room with 20 students, particularly college students of 20, 21, 22 years age, they can lose concentration very quickly. Very, very quickly. And a lot of times what I do is I pause and then they snap up because they think they're being called on, which sometimes I make sure that they are because that's one way to do it. But I just pause. And you'll see people's heads snap up because it's like they've been listening. Also, what did I miss? So you want to do that. You can emphasize a key point that way. You can get the attention back. And you give your audience a little time to process too. If you keep talking and talking, remember, you're going to have this down pat, what you're going to say. Audience is hearing this for the first time. And so give them a little time to process what you're saying rather than keep on going and going like that. Give them, it's like filling up a water cup, do it. You don't just pour it all in and go overflow. You pour it in and make sure that, that it can absorb that amount. And I'll tell you, it's a lot better than using ums, and those kind of things. Next page, visual aids. How many of you are going to be using slides to present? Okay, so some of you are going to be doing it. Don't read, or even videos, don't read the slides. So you're not going to stand up here like this and go, if you were doing it and saying, don't read the slides or show videos with the back turned. It makes speaker disengaged. Don't read the slides. Don't read the videos, whatever you're going to be doing here, because it makes you disengage. You turn your back to the audience. Don't turn your back to the audience. Just like in theater, you don't turn your back to the audience. So you understand what these are, just don't read it off and stand there reading it off. When you're putting these together, don't put, like I've done here to show you what not to do, is don't throw a whole lot of text on there because it's more difficult to read. I would break this up in 2 pages. Jeff just made me, he wanted to keep it on 1 page, so blame him. But I should this is that there's too much copy on this. Break it up so that people can read it. Start speaking as you present a new slide. So literally don't just put it up there and then everybody's looking. You start speaking. The best way to do it, as soon as the slide gets up, you start talking. You start talking so that you maintain the attention. Otherwise, what's going to happen is your audience is going to be tuning out, looking at all the a copy or whatever you're showing on the slide and really not paying attention. You've lost that connection. The headline of the slide should present what it is that it's giving you context. Here it is, using visual aids effectively. I'm not just saying visual aids. I'm saying using them effectively. So you already know what this is about, don't you? Saying what it is. Best way of doing it. Don't stand in front of the slides. Please don't ever do that so that you want people to be able to read it. And use short phrases. Don't use these long sentences. There I go right there. Just long sentences. It's just too much. You just want to use phrases. You just want to use bullet points so that people can follow you. Otherwise, they're going to be spending so much time reading and there'll be so much copy on there. And again, make sure that whatever you're going to be doing on any slides or anything you're going to be showing, make sure it's relevant. Ask yourself, is this something that is supporting my presentation? If it's not, get rid of it. You just want to make sure it's relevant and salient. And I go back to those 5 C's, concrete. It has to do specifically to what you're presenting and that argument that you're trying to forge. Any questions on any of that? Okay, then let's turn to answering questions effectively, because this is where the rubber really hits the road. Anybody can get up and make a speech if you've rehearsed it. And I don't mean to say that you want to make an effective presentation. But remember, the questions that have come, and it's so important how you're going to be answering those from the audience. Jeff?
Yeah. After your 3 to 5 minute summary introduction and engaging the audience, there are going to be those people that are going to line up and get to the podium. They're going to want to talk to you and ask you questions. And as Brian, you had said earlier, there are, you can anticipate who some of the taxpayers are that are going to come up and ask questions. They do town meeting after town meeting after town meeting. So please just try to anticipate what they're going to ask. Prepare answers in advance. We can help you with that too. It's something you need to be prepared for in advance of the meeting. We know that so-and-so is going to be asking about this question, but be prepared. Again, goes back to what we talked about a lot earlier for preparation and practice. During the question period, you want to make sure that you understand the question completely. Someone gets up to the podium, presents a question, you're kind of not sure, it might be vague, it might not be something that you're understanding. Make sure that you ask them to rephrase the question, or could you be a bit more specific? You don't want to spend time answering a question that wasn't asked. So you want to make sure that you have clarification if it isn't clear enough. Also, if possible, address the questioner, but also engaging the people around too. Try to be concise and don't ramble with your answers, which again goes back to anticipating the questions that may arise. We can certainly put some questions together for you to help that along as well. And try to make sure that you have answered the question completely and concisely. Sometimes it's okay to say, does that answer your question? Was that enough information? Try to do that if possible. Difficult questions, which of course there are going to be at town meeting. We see it all the time. Take the high road. Don't get into a back and forth. You should be presenting yourself professionally and trying to get the answer out in a again friendly manner, maintaining professionalism. And again, there may be information that comes up. We talked about misinformation. Someone may get up to the podium with a question that's irrelevant, and it's okay to say, well, I'm not sure this refers to the topic that we're talking about. And I think the moderator would step in there as well on occasion too. So it's okay to ask for clarification of a question.
Okay. Question, yes.
I think sometimes when somebody asks a question, it's not relevant.
Mm.
It might seem relevant to the rest of the audience, right? How do you avoid, like, making it seem like you're not just trying to dump their question?
How, the question is,
Good example.
yeah, the question is if somebody asks a question that's not relevant,
Mhm.
but some of the people in the audience may feel it is relevant, how do you make sure you're I don't mean sidestepping, but pointing out that it's not relevant to what you're speaking about and not sidestepping the
Yeah,
question?
you know, that's an interesting question, but I don't believe I'm probably not the most appropriate person to answer that at this point. I think that's a good way to address that as well.
Anybody else? Okay,
To follow up that, they might say, well, who is?
Mhm. We can get back
Yeah.
to you.
Okay.
We'll make sure we get the right person in touch with you.
And then that also sort of ends it, hopefully.
Yes.
correct.
Right. We're listening. We hear you. We'll get you in contact with the right.
And it's
person.
similar to like in media training, those of you who've done, when you're asked by the media, then when we went through that, you said, I'm not the appropriate person, so-and-so is in the department, and I will have them get back to you or get in contact with you kind of thing. Obviously a little bit different for town meeting, but that is the way to make sure that you're not put on the spot to answer something that you may not be able to respond to. At the same time, it's just not relevant and salient to this, even though the person who's questioning it may think that it is. Yes.
So how do we balance that? Because when you're at town meeting, people are gonna be voting on something, right? Well, we may think the question is not relevant to the topic at hand. How do you balance that so that the voters don't get taken away, they're trying to hide something, and because they're acting with immediate expediency after the question's on voting on, right? And
Mhm.
so I'm just wondering how you balance that so that we don't come off as not wanting to answer it or I would say afraid to answer it, but how do you do that so it doesn't give the appearance that we don't want to do it or answer it so that it may change people's opinion on what, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Because I think it's a delicate balance when we're trying to deal with that there because we're asking somebody to vote on something. So I think in a different setting, it might be a little easier. So where is that balance, I guess?
Well, hopefully that you've addressed all that you can when in your summary introduction, but acknowledge, yeah, that's an interesting question. That's not something that, first of all, I can answer right now, or we don't have that information right now. And again, if you don't,
No, yeah.
right, and so then be honest.
I think that's the most important thing. You're just being honest and authentic, and no reasonable person is going to fault you for that. Brooke,
Maybe something along the lines of, it's an interesting question, but it's not pertinent to the decision.
Exactly.
Today on the select
Right,
board.
right.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Indirectly.
Yeah. It's a little bit out of the scope of what we're discussing right now. Mhm.
Would you bridge back to each question, things that we've considered most important?
Mhm.
Yeah. yeah, and that can be as well. What you do is you're getting it, somebody may be off track and getting it right back to the point that you're trying to make. And that's why it's important to finish with a strong ending so that you're emphasizing what you're trying to get across. Yes.
The reason I'm interested is if I work in a housing market, it's employee housing and affordable housing.
Mhm.
I don't think that we're trying really hard to make it clear that.
Sure.
And I just anticipate those questions coming up. So my question now is like, how much do we want to get into surveys? Do we at all want to go into? If somebody asks, if we have an affordable housing or well, somebody asks, well, we're already spending this on municipal housing. How do we want to get into explaining the differences in our response or just kind of
I think it's fair to explain the difference.
Yeah, quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the difference between community affordable housing and municipal employee housing can be done in a few moments.
What you don't want to do is start going down the rabbit hole and getting it off
Right.
the track of something, because then that just, you're going to have a lot more people talking about that when you're trying to get, make sure you're making the case of this one particular article. And if you get off track, one thing you be able to say quickly, yep, that's what it is, blah, 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 and move back. Or pivot back, as we call it in the trade.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Okay, I think best is maybe take a 5-minute break.
Sure.
And then we will start up in 5 minutes and begin.
I just want to say, I'm so sorry, I have to, I
Okay.
can't stay for this, but I wish I was here to practice.
Okay.
Next time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Amanda, Tracy, Charlie, Chuck, and Grace.
I lost track. Hmm?
And completely blocking. I mean, it's definitely a slow down. I really wanted to. I mean,
No, it's the intersection.
It's definitely pretty much like a little bit crowded.
And what all these are
Even better, even better.
I'm sorry, I'll talk to you.
Just wanted to go ahead and say that, let me essentially.
Just so I'm getting, yeah, that's actually really the same different basis for because
That sounds good. If possible, come over.
an understandable. You're in over 3 or 4 days. Yeah. I know, that's what we're saying. That's the goal.
Deep in thought? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Oh, it looked like you were thinking. When we were just sitting in the car. Something about this person, that, right? Somebody. that's the topic of the show. Just a little help. And we're gonna prepared for that. I think part of that is also so, I don't know how much you know about the whole issue of the hunter station. Shed. So like they had use of the park. Town said with the DPW, trying to coexist on the site. I don't get to make that decision. Whether they get 1 acre, 0 acres, all 27 acres, it's a board decision. So like a lot of times I'm kind of caught in the crossfire. Housing association getting through it. And I'm like, I'm just putting forth my problem. What happens next to me is really not even my decision. And that's a lame kind of response to that. You know, that kind of is the fact of the matter. And New York has done a really good job in the past about addressing some of that stuff, like more so in a public setting. We did a public meeting last March, and she stood right here and said that, like, well, you know, whatever. I just want to make sure that we're best situated to address some of the more difficult topics. It's one thing for me to talk about the square footage or the cost or the need or whatever. That's some pretty simple fact-based stuff, whether people believe me or not, you know. But that's a tricky, like, political situation. Okay. Yeah. That's just like, I always feel like the elephant in the room, and the toughest thing for us to be prepared to address, you know. Okay. Yeah, we should definitely connect on that. I think because I think if you go look at last year's or the past 2 town meetings, it just happens year after year. And so it's the old, like, if we review the tape, see what we could have done differently type of thing, because I don't know if I doubt it's going to change much. It's going to be the same comment once again, and it would benefit us to do a better job responding. You know. Okay. Yeah, we'll do a little brainstorm. Again, amazing guy. You know, I don't know if there's any. Oh yeah. Okay. So okay, excellent. Yeah.
Okay, if we can. Hello. Okay, can we have everybody? Is this on? I don't think it's on.
If the green light is, yeah.
Hello? Can we have everybody take their seats now? Everybody take their seats now, please. Can we have everybody take their seats now? That's of course the toughest thing to do, is get everybody to sit down. We are going, and we're going to be polished now too. All right.
So what, I think what we're going to do next is go get actual articles
Yes.
underway.
Yes.
I think what we were hoping to do here was go through some of the articles. Obviously, we're not going to go through all 80, whatever. And we're going to start, I think, with maybe Amanda. Is Amanda online? Yeah. With Article 7. Now, so I'm trying to go through the warrant and pick out the articles that sometimes have discussion. Article 7 is the personnel article, and people sometimes try to mess with the salary schedules. So if it's called, Amanda would be the person to, when it comes time for it, to give the 3-minute or less overview of what Article 7 is. And Amanda, you did a really good job the other day at FinCom doing that. So maybe you can just do that right now for Article 7. We all hear it. And the idea for all the rest of us is to give any feedback on how'd you do with your speaking? Did you cover the main points? Was it clear, concise, concrete, that sort of thing?
Okay.
Yeah, and ask questions too of that. Is Amanda going to be on the screen?
She can turn on her camera.
Amanda, you're going to turn on the camera so we could
I
see.
do. Yeah, can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
All right. So again, invite everybody. Amanda will speak. You can ask questions and then provide comments. And again, it's anything from the specifics of what she has spoken about in the presentation. It can be in terms of the way that she spoke. And it can be also about anything in terms of a little bit different on video versus in person in terms of body language. But again, provide feedback. We're all here to support each other and just to try to make sure that we are as comfortable and confident when it comes to speaking at town meeting. Okay.
All right. Good morning. My name is Amanda Perry. I am the Human Resource Director for the town of Nantucket. With respect to Article 7, the purpose of this article is to establish approved hourly compensation rates for positions that are not covered by a collective bargaining agreement or other town compensation policies. These positions do not include benefits. This year, there are no proposed changes to the compensation listed in Article 7, with the exception of the annual salary for the elected town clerk, which is listed in the article with a 4% base wage increase.
Great. I thought that was very good. My only little tiny feedback would be, you tend to sort of ask a question at the, it sounds a little questioning. So sort of like the positions in Article 7, it sounds questiony at the end. So I would just be more definitive in your explanation of the article. These are the positions that are not in collective bargaining agreements, rather than these positions aren't in collective bargaining agreements. See?
Yes.
But otherwise, it sounds quite informative.
So when the article is called, it's likely just to make a change in the pay. So
Yeah.
we also are not going to comment on that, right? So I get up and describe the article, but I'm not making a comment necessarily on the proposal to change the wage, which I don't know if that is misleading.
So you won't know that yet. So if somebody calls Article 7, you are going to be the first speaker of it because it is a town-sponsored article. So you're going to give the exact explanation that you just gave, but we won't know what somebody wants to do. So after you give what you just did, let's just make up something. Brooke?
Yeah, I think that the part-time so-and-so should make $19 an hour instead of 17.
Yeah. Did you hear that, Amanda?
No, something about $19 an hour.
Yeah. I move that the parking person makes $19 instead of 17 or what, something like that. They want to change like one thing. So then you would get back up and say, we don't recommend that because then they're going to make more than the police officer or whatever.
Actually, I was going to recommend something that Amanda said the other day, which is that these wages are evaluated against union wages and that we want to be very careful not to have conflicts with our union positions.
Mm-hmm.
And so these have been carefully vetted.
We also might want to tack on to that, depending on the magnitude of their increase. That's not a budgeted item. And we didn't do this when somebody doubled the hourly rates of the election workers, but that has now caused the town clerk's budget to have to increase.
Tracy has a question or has her hand raised.
So my question, Amanda, is on the town clerk position. That's an elected position, correct?
Yes.
And so it might be helpful for you to show it, to note the term of that and whether the 4% is over the life of that term.
Tracy, we couldn't really hear that.
Oh, sorry. Put down my microphone. So I was saying to Amanda, the town clerk position is an elected position, and it might be helpful to note the term of that position and whether the 4% increase is over that term or,
Okay, I think if somebody questions that, Amanda can answer it. It's a 3-year term. That salary is adjusted annually at town meeting.
okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so I just added
oh,
to my notes. Go
Amanda,
ahead.
stand by for 1 second. Rick has a question.
Okay.
You had said a couple minutes ago that Amanda would be at the mic. She would speak first.
Yep.
And then when question or the person who called the article expressed their challenge, that she would come back up. But instead, we're actually staying. Are the presenters are staying?
Yeah, if I said it like that, I didn't mean to. I meant she would stay at the podium through the end of the article if it is called. All right. Any other questions about 7?
Libby, I just have a comment. Amanda, I think you could slow down your presentation a little bit. I think it was a little bit quick. And again, people are trying to process this, and just think of the venue and what's going to be happening. How many articles are going to be, Libby, altogether?
Over 80.
Over 80. So again, they're going to be hearing this, all evening long. So again, you want to slow it down, give them some time to process this. And I would also make it, it sounded a little bit, I don't want to say memorized, but you want to make it more conversational. It sounds like you're having a conversation to somebody. You're speaking to, if you haven't make it more of a conversational tone, it's like you're going to be speaking to people individually, as opposed to, you're presenting something. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and last year after I spoke, someone shouted, "I couldn't hear you." So I had to do it all over again.
Yeah. And you certainly don't want to do
Yeah.
that. And that's why it's important to, again, speak from that diaphragm. You've got a microphone, but again, you'll have 1,000 people there, and make sure that they're going to hear you. You don't want that is that because if one person is saying they didn't hear you, then there's dozens of others who didn't hear you as well. And if they don't hear you, you're not getting a message across. And if that person didn't say they didn't hear you, then most people just sit there. I didn't hear. I don't know what the argument is to vote for this. So again, but just more of a having a conversation with your neighbors as opposed to you're presenting at town meeting.
Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just figured I'd hit Amanda with a question that this could come up after this past week's select board meeting. So I understand that they're going to be paying a ranger out in the Bluff Walk $50 an hour. How does that balance against what we're paying our non-union employees?
That's a great question. I don't have the answer to your question, but I do know that this time that position is not funded and represented in the article as presented before you.
And by the way, I just also want to add, that's a great answer for first thing for Amanda to say. That's a great question. That's a really great question. Now, maybe sometimes that's a really great question, but it also gives you a little bit of time to think about it. That's a really great question. In the meantime, I'm thinking, how am I going to answer this one? But that gives you that extra few seconds to be able to, formulate your response. You can also say sometimes, if you want some more time, is, can you clarify that question? Now, you may have completely understood it, but it's giving you that extra seconds to be able to think about
Good.
it.
Just a quick clarifying question, though. Is that true, Charlie? They're going to pay him 50, or did you make that up?
That at one point was, I believe, in the conversation before, possibly beforehand, before the select board meeting. So it's definitely been out there in the, social media universe.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously people have made meme posters and stuff like that. So it'll be a topic, I'm sure.
Brooke has a response.
So it is actually indeed in Sconset Civic Association's proposal to the select board.
Mm-hmm.
They put $50 an hour. We made it clear. We made the point clear that Charlie made in his question. And they will be coordinating. The answer to this is they will be coordinating with the town manager on appropriate salary relative to other town positions before they advertise the position.
And just so we all know, the example that was in the packet from town admin was the highest basically level seasonal employee person for the maximum number of years they've been a seasonal person is $30 an hour. So this person's probably going to be more like, I don't know, 12.
Well, and the other thing is that
No.
that's a privately funded position.
Yes.
It is not a municipal position.
Correct.
Amanda, as well. So you have that armor.
Yeah. Hopefully that
Okay.
won't come up, but Charlie, thank you for raising it because who knows? Yeah. Oh, he'd be perfect. Okay, so Article 8, we've talked about Brian giving an overview of Article 8, but only if it's called. I don't think we need to, I would love to get feedback from people, but if it's not called, then people are good with it, right? Okay. So maybe.
Last year, they called Article 8 to strike the entire housing budget.
So let's pretend Article 8's been called. And so, Brian, you're going to give your 3-minute overview.
I was gonna send her home early. Right? Okay, through you, Madam Moderator. Article 8 seeks an appropriation of $149,664,000 to fund general fund operations for fiscal year 2027. This request represents an increase of $9,050,000, which is 6.44% above the fiscal 2026 approved budget. The general fund budget supports the day-to-day operations of both the town and Nantucket Public School System, including public safety, such as police and fire, public works, natural resources, the housing department, general government, and educational services provided by the Nantucket Public Schools. This proposed budget reflects the necessary resources to maintain current service levels while addressing a number of ongoing cost drivers. These include contractual salary obligations, employee benefits, insurance costs, utilities, and other operating expenses that continue to increase every year. The budget also incorporates targeted adjustments requested by departments and the school department to ensure they can continue providing services safely and effectively to the community. The budget was developed through a collaborative process involving town administration, the school department, and the individual department heads. It has been reviewed in detail by the Finance Committee over the course of several meetings. Throughout this process, efforts were made to balance the need to maintain high-quality municipal services, educational services with the town's long-term financial stability. As with prior years, the town continues to monitor the revenues carefully and manage expenditures responsibly to remain within the limits of Proposition 2.5, while maintaining appropriate reserves and fiscal responsibility. This article represents the annual operating budget necessary to fund the town's core services for fiscal year 2027. Department heads, school officials, and finance department staff are present this evening and would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
That was really good.
Brian, I'm just going to give you, I thought you had good eye contact. And I know it's a little bit awkward here too, but I didn't, look around a little longer too, because you were glancing up. You weren't, I don't think you were connecting with anybody. You were glancing up and making eye contact kind of like this.
So maybe when I glance up, finish the sentence as I'm looking.
Finish the sentence and stare at somebody.
Okay.
Just literally finish the sentence and looking at somebody. You were just glancing. You were glancing up. You had very good posture. I wouldn't, again, my philosophy is keeping your hands up here like this, not dropping it down.
Okay. All right.
And I'm going to tell you why too in a moment, because when you were talking about some of the service, educational services, municipal services. If he hands you up here, you're talking about educational services, municipal services.
Sure.
That's going to emphasize. Otherwise, what happens, it just can become a ramble on.
There was a couple spots, like I thought that I could have done something like that when I was talking about the review process with the finance committee and emphasize that a little bit differently. So
Sure.
that's good.
There's a difference between reading something and presenting something. What you want to do is present it so that it's clear. Because again, remember, you're not presenting, there are 80 other articles that night and people, you know how it is. And after a couple hours, and you want to make sure it's clear. So you want to say like municipal services. Pause, because you were saying municipal service, educational service, municipal services, educational services, and look like that. The other thing is, but you were conversational. I thought you were relaxed, conversational, but your tone, I would vary it because you had the same tone all the way through. You want to vary it because it goes to the increases every year. If you say the increase, you said increase every year, the increases, because that shows, you're doing something against it. And, target the adjustment. So you want to emphasize some words to get that across. Otherwise, again, you got to think 15% of people listening to you. How do you make sure that message getting through? You do it by, one of the things is varying your tone and the increases every year. And people go, you're right. That's what we got to deal with.
It wasn't too long, was it?
It wasn't too long. No, it wasn't at all. I think the length was fine, but
More animated.
yeah. And I think that's what it is, to be able to get, to keep people's attention. But again, connect with the audience. Don't just glance, because otherwise you're not connecting. Frankly, if you're not connecting with the audience, you might as well just read it, because just glancing up and everything like that, you might as well be looking at the wall. So those are some suggestions.
That's good feedback. I appreciate it.
But since you are reading it, there's a lot of numbers there. I'd suggest that you deliberately pause when you hit the period at the end of a sentence.
Okay.
So that you're not just going from one sentence.
So
to
it
the
doesn't
next.
sound monotone and like a one giant run-on sentence.
And it's not just that, it's give them time to process. Think about how many numbers are going to be given to everybody. You're not just, you got to think about this. You're one of 80 different articles that are going to be spoken that night. And, people just get bombarded with numbers all night. So pause on that. Let them think about that number and then start up again, because that'll get people's attention if you pause, and it will also give them time to process it. Otherwise, you keep giving them information. It's just information overload.
Okay. Can I ask a question for Brian?
No.
Yes. The gentleman in the second row.
So Brian, you mentioned that the budget is increasing by 6.44% this year, I think you said, over last year. Can you break that down between how much the school's budget has gone up versus the non-school budget?
No. I will be prepared with that for town meeting, but I cannot tell you that answer right now without making it up.
So,
That actually is a great question that we've never been asked, but I should be prepared for.
just to remind everybody, we are trying to more focus on exactly what they said rather than new questions. But I'm not saying that was a good one though. For like, we're not asking questions. That's for the mock town meeting. But
That's fine,
that
it
was
is
a very good
question
one.
though, that we
We
should
be
to
prepared
answer.
for it. Brian, the only thing I would think is when you say something like this budget's been reviewed several times by the finance committee, you should say select board and finance committee.
Okay.
Because they reviewed it several times. Well, and then you say it covers core services. It does, but it covers other things too. I don't really know. I'd be happy to get feedback on that. I don't know how far down the road we want to get. Maybe we just don't even bother saying that, but EIRs are not always core services.
I didn't want to, it was part of when I kind of did this, I was trying to focus it on
not going down rabbit holes like the
Yes.
EIRs that are not part necessarily always a core
Yeah.
service function primarily, so that we didn't get into a million tangents. So that's kind of the way that I focused it, but I can work on that and give you something.
Yeah, Brooke,
Couple points I noticed lift in your voice, so when you watch it back, and I think more of that.
Okay.
Like you did do some lifting at the end of the sentence to change your tone of it. And the other thing is this gesture on balancing something like this, we're trying to balance, is a really effective way to like visualize that.
but also we have balance, not, we don't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, or, you know, we're balancing this and this.
Yes,
something
yes,
like that.
yes.
Like,
Yeah.
not this, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great point of Brooke, because again, that just is another way of emphasizing it. People get that because they're going to be hearing thousands of words that night. So the more they can gesture, I don't mean overly gesture either, but if you can put a few in, then people are going to, again, it's all about trying to engage people so that they understand and they're listening and they're paying attention, they're processing the information.
I was just going to reiterate, sort of piggybacking what you said. I know coming from other towns, to counter what Rick was asking, to avoid the question, the collaboration between all of the select board, the finance, all the departments to get to a 6.4 increase is very, some way to like celebrate that. To my way of thinking, school budgets are out of control in other towns. So just put that as I thought that was a definitive statement.
Excuse me.
And then you don't have to get involved in the other numbers. We've been able to keep it at 6.4 increase and, for next year. To me, as a taxpayer, I'm like, that's reasonable.
Should I think about, as we're talking about this now, as I look at it, should I think about putting the budget development paragraph after the note that I have about the increase and then what it funds? So that it highlights the review that it's gone through, the process that it's gone through before. So in other words, after I make the statement about the request represents an increase of $9 million, which is 6.44% increase over fiscal 26, should I move the budget was developed through, obviously adding in select board through the collaborative process first, and then what it supports and go through it? That would that be more emphasis on the process so that people would get a better feeling about what's presented?
Brooke, if you want to answer, then I'll give my response.
I'm going to say that feels like a really strong closer.
Okay.
That this is all the information, blah, 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 blah. And this is thoroughly vetted, guys.
Yeah.
Like we
Okay.
really
Right.
do a good job
Okay.
of doing this together and, trying to minimize the increase. And I think what Bob said, only 6 point. I mean, you don't want to say that only because people are going to scoff at you.
Well, if
But-
I say only, they're going to look at me like I'm crazy.
I
that's
understand, but
a
a
shy
reason
away from that.
that it's a tone that says it's reasonable.
Okay.
Right.
I
think
you would normally talk about the process and then what the process resulted in and then have your strong close. Doesn't matter, I'm just saying. Like I'd like to know the basis for the number when I hear the number. Then first I'm gonna hear the number and then I'm gonna give the basis. Anyway, it doesn't
So
matter.
the answer is, we disagree over here.
That's fine. I'm just trying to make sure that it makes the whole question for Christie smoother and easier because it's all gonna be focused on the override in there.
Yeah, I just would weigh in on that. And again, it could be argued either way, but I don't think you want to just interrupt with, here's a number. Well, we went through a process and
So
that.
leave
So
it at the end then.
I would leave
Okay.
it. I'd either you put it at the beginning, this is vetted, or you put it at the end. I think what you're doing, you're putting it in the middle.
So if
And I don't
led
think
with-
that's the
so
place
if I
for it.
led with, it seeks the appropriation, and then the second part of that was the follow-on about the process. And then it represents the increase and what percentage it is, and it supports these things.
I think
Would
you
that
could
be
do it
better?
because I think there's a logical way of doing it.
Okay.
We went through a process, we came here, and then the supporting information about it. You can do that. I would probably do it that way.
Okay.
My opinion, but I understand what Brooke is saying, and it's a great way of saying, hey, look, and we vetted this and everything like that, and you slam the door shut on it. But I don't think where you have it, it was kind of in the middle.
Okay.
I don't think to me, it's either at the beginning or it's at the end.
And
I
you
think in
can,
the middle, I think it gets you off track a little bit.
and you can say it sort of the same, you can make the same point by using different words. There was all collaborative, blah, blah, blah with these boards. And at the end, maybe something like all the meetings were public. viewable online, whatever. One thing that this is making me think of, it is possible, likely, maybe, that you're at the podium doing Article 8, you stay there, a question comes up, but it's for somebody else, like Christie. So I think in that instance, you're going to sit down for a minute. Your
Okay.
seat will be very
Right in
close
front of you.
by,
Right.
and then Christie will come over to the podium and address whatever. It might be that with we three or you two need a little quick consultation on what, if anybody needs any guidance on what to say. But it is possible that, you're not going to be, you have to move aside.
So
for
in
some-
that instance, would it be appropriate for me to acknowledge the question and then say who's going to answer it so that they're just not left wondering for like me just the question and me just walk to my seat and Christie get up? Or
Yeah,
would
I
it-
think you can
would
say
the-
that.
okay.
That'll be a question for the housing director.
Mhm.
Christie,
All right.
come on over or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
that way you're making sure that it's going to be addressed, because
Mhm.
otherwise people aren't going to be concerned that you're not responding to it. They want somebody to respond to it. And you just got to be able to make sure that you're connecting the dots on that. Right.
Yeah.
I can't wait to sit and be able to do this with all the other ones.
I don't know if anybody else felt this way, but as you were starting and you said there's an increase of 9 million, and then you said the 6%. When I first heard the 9 million, I was like, whoa, that's a lot of money. So I just don't know if you said the 6% first, and I don't know if anybody else.
Or
has heard.
maybe don't say the money, just say the percent.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
the, yeah,
That-
not to
yeah.
hide it, but it was just like, if I was a voter, I'd be like, wow, you're going up $9 million
Mhm.
in the budget. That was just my first.
So
That's a headline.
I will just represent the percent increase, not the,
Yeah.
I was just hoping to remove a question of what's that in a dollar?
Well, then you can say it if need be.
That's fine. Okay.
And it's in the
It
warrant.
is, but
Y-
nobody
yeah.
does math. Come on.
Well,
Let's
they
be
can-
honest about that.
It's right there, black and white.
I was just gonna say, I think along those same lines, and as far as what you say in what order, I think it helps when you say 149 million. People go, geez, that's a lot of money. And you say it covers schools and police and
Yep.
fire and X and Y. All right, we get a lot for this. And then there's a lengthy process, FinCom, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's bought in, you should too. Like that flows well for me. Like it is a lot of money. We provide a lot of services.
Yep.
And we did a lot to get to this point. I like that. I think that's how you had it structured.
Okay.
Mic drop. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
And-
I appreciate it.
And just remember, everybody, summarize it at the end. It's like the old thing is, tell them what you're going to talk about, tell them, and then tell them what you told them, just to reemphasize that. So you don't need a whole paragraph to do that. You just have a couple sentences, but just it reinforces it and it summarizes everything.
Okay, so the next article is 9, and that's the Health and Human Services article. We need Jericho for that, and he's not here, so we'll make sure to invite him to the mock and get it. Did he give a script yet? No. Okay. Yeah, okay, so we need to get a script from him. Okay, now Article 10. Article 10 will probably be called because somebody won't like something in it. So Brian will give the overview of 10, and then whoever's items are being questioned will come to the podium. So this is going to be a good example of other people coming. So do you have your quick overview, Brian?
Yeah, it's very, very brief.
No, you're not going into every single item.
Great. Back again, guys. Yeah, through you, Madam
That's right, you
Moderator.
do have to-
Article 10 seeks an appropriation of $17,962,000 to fund capital projects for fire department, information technology, marine department, natural resources, the police department, town administration, and the Nantucket Public Schools. Included within these capital requests is a capital exclusion totaling $2,274,300, which, if approved, this exclusion would increase the annual tax bill for the average year-round residential property valued at $1,878,950, and which qualifies for the residential exemption by approximately $8.03 for 1 year. Department heads, school officials, and members of the finance team are present to answer any questions you may have. Yeah, that's it. It's a deal. It's the best deal in town. I think one thing that I need to do is I need to add something that brings it back about the importance of the funding the critical infrastructure and assets to maintain services to the residents of the town or
Sure.
something like
Yeah.
that. So it kind of wraps it back up and why it's critical that we approve
You,
this.
you want to do that because you want to make sure right at the end that they're hearing
Why we need to do.
why you need it
Okay.
and why you gotta vote for this.
I realized that halfway through.
Brian,
Safety. I don't think. Okay.
mhm.
That was a perfect example of
Okay.
what you could do it because it was great. You have your hands up again, but you count on there and then people get it. Otherwise, it's kind of rambling on and people can't. It's a way for it to sink in.
Brian,
And-
do you mention the ballot question?
I did. I have something that says included within this capital request is a capital exclusion, the total, and what it would do to the average single family home. with
Did
the
you say that
residential.
just now?
I did. You want me to
Okay.
say it again?
No, I
Okay.
was writing some notes down, so I didn't hear you say it, but, I wanted to make sure it was in there.
It is. And I did that, Libby, so that each individual department doesn't get a question about what theirs would do. That's the total of
Yeah, yeah.
all of it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Um, you could add those words in there. It's right in the article. It's contingent, one or more amounts to be appropriated may be contingent upon a Prop 2.5 capital outlay exclusion ballot question, and the ballot questions are in the back of the warrant, but it doesn't hurt to emphasize
So
that.
could I
And
just say if approved at the annual town meeting and the subsequent annual town election?
some of the items
Yeah, okay.
need the ballot vote, and you. Yeah, and I don't know if this gets too complicated, but is it too complicated to work in that the capital outlay is for 1 year increase in taxes? Or
I
we
did
just
say
wait
that
for
at
a
the-
question?
I did say that at the end when I said and qualify for residential exemption by approximately $8.03 for 1 year.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yep.
With a
Okay.
hand
Yeah,
gesture.
I would do that for 1 year.
Okay.
1 year.
Yeah. Now, I'm wondering if we should do one or two departments coming up, and because hopefully everybody prepared their little script for the items. So, yeah, so
Not 1, 2.
why do we need this, what is that thing called? That ATV beach thing?
Could I just give one more comment to Brian? You looked up a little bit more this time, but it's still too fast. It's still glancing. It's not. Yeah, this is how it is. It's heads up. This is a great question. Eye contact, conversational, and that's what you're doing as opposed to eye contact and conversational. Again, that way you want to think about conversing with somebody more than speaking at them. All right. And if you do it that way, and you glance at them, you're speaking at them. If you're taking your time, you're really having a conversation with your neighbors. And that's what you really want to get across. That's going to be the most effective way. You're going to get most people's attention and you're going to make your points if you're having a conversation versus you're getting up and you're speaking at a town meeting. And that's the mindset that everybody wants to have.
There's nobody in this room, is there? Besides us? There's nobody, we have this room for, okay. Some people looked like they were trying to come in here.
Something going on.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Why do we need anything for the fire department ever?
Thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm asking for your support of the capital request to purchase 2 all-terrain compact fire engines to replace two aging vehicles in our fleet, a 2002 fire engine and a 1992 brush breaker. Both of these vehicles have served Nantucket well. However, they're now 24 and 34 years old. As vehicles age, they become less reliable. more expensive to maintain, and harder to repair due to the availability of parts. More importantly, they were not designed to meet the changing and growing fire risks on Nantucket today. Nantucket's not a typical community, right? We have unique hazards. We have large conservation areas, dunes, beaches, moors, and neighborhoods with narrow or unpaved roads. Wildland fires are a very real threat here. We've seen close calls across the region, both on Nantucket and everywhere else across the United States. Climate trends have only increased that risk. The two proposed engines are compact, highly maneuverable, and specifically designed for our environment. They can safely access areas that standard fire engines simply can't reach, including beach areas, trails, dunes, and tight residential areas. These engines are equipped with pump and roll capability. And that means that firefighters can actively fight a fire while the vehicle is moving. This is critical in wildland fires, where stopping can allow flames to spread quickly. It allows crews to contain fires faster and more effectively. Each engine contains its own water tank. It contains a hardline hose reel for rapid deployment. It has a storage area for wildland firefighting equipment and medical equipment for a medical response. In short, these are not specialty vehicles that will sit unused. They're multi-purpose engines that respond to brush fires, structure fires in hard to reach places, and medical emergencies and storm-related incidents. Purchasing identical apparatus improves efficiency in training, maintenance, and parts replacement, and ultimately reduces long-term operating costs. Finally, this purchase aligns with the town's strategic focus areas, supports efficient and effective town operations by responsibly maintaining and improving municipal assets and minimizing avoidable downtime. It supports environmental leadership by improving our ability to stop fires earlier and reduce damage in fire-adapted habitats where fire can spread easily. It supports housing and transportation by improving emergency access and response reliability across the neighborhoods and our roads that our community depends on. This is a practical, prevention-minded investment. Two compact all-terrain engines that replace aging units, strengthen island-wide access, and keep Nantucket protected year-round and in peak season. This request is about three things: safety, giving the firefighters the right tools to protect lives and property; reliability, replacing aging vehicles before they fail at a critical moment; and preparedness, ensuring that Nantucket is ready to respond to an emergency where anywhere it occurs on the island. I respectfully ask for your support.
Yeah.
I know we said 3 minutes, but that was a little long. I think you could cut that in half and get your 3 points out earlier. And there was some stuff about neighborhoods and things. I think you could cut a little bit of that out. Yeah.
Cut out the strategic plan.
Which one to mention?
Just explain why we need them. What you said about they're replacing these ancient other vehicles is there's that, and there's those points you made about why we need them. And what were you going to say?
I think you need to give an example of, say, beaches or compact neighborhoods, such as, because if you give a beach location or a compact neighborhood, it's going to resonate with people.
Yeah.
They'll understand it better than just hearing.
I agree. Mike, have we, can you identify a time when either one of these has been used in a fire? Or could have been?
Yeah, we had a fire on the beach, a vehicle fire on the beach last winter, and we couldn't get to it.
So use that as an example.
Because I think that will help draw the, by doing that and giving something people will get.
And
I want to bring up
you
the
can,
drought too.
you can work in, like when I asked you, why do we need to put out a fire on the beach? Sparks could.
Yeah, sparks could
Catch Mattocket on
catch
fire
the
or
dunes on
whatever.
fire. you know, when a vehicle catches fire, fluids are released into the environment.
Yep.
And, you know, close proximity to the water.
There's one thing that's a cheap deal with all the tankers, crew it, ambulances, they can't get down private. You hear all the time on the radio, or walking in, they got to park the engine a couple hundred feet away from the house. That hinders them. You hear it on the radio almost every day.
Every day. Really?
Is this replacing your existing old, you mentioned the old one, those two is replacement?
Well, we're requesting the purchase of 2 and it's replacing 2.
Do you have data on like how many responses they have a year? If it's strong data, you can include it, like these routinely go out on 40 calls a year or something. I would hear that, like, that would stand out to me. I think sometimes there's a belief that some pieces of equipment are used like once a year or
Yeah.
very rare, like how often is this really going to be? It's not this one piece of data, but
I think the point is we would be able to use these more than we're using the ones that they're replacing because they would have more maneuverability and
So say that. And sort of like what David was saying, there are areas of the island that are hard to get to.
right. Okay.
The other thing is take anything out of our America for climate change.
Yep.
Okay, except the region. Yeah. So with the fire risk, you know, that we're seeing nationally, that anytime you talk about America.
There we go.
So if I say we've seen close calls in recent years, both in Nantucket and across the region, or get rid of across the region.
Get rid of the region.
Yeah, because we don't need, we're not serving the region.
Think of your audience and Nantucket voters.
Exactly.
Yeah, with the lack of mutual aid,
Yeah.
with the lack of mutual aid being able to
Mm.
get things quickly and build up before they become big problems that we can handle.
Perfect.
I would highlight mutual aid.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Rationale, because that will resonate.
Right.
To the high thing.
For building last year, they didn't get it to us, so.
That's my line. Wait, did you really just ask that?
I actually think you did a good job of talking, highlighting how old they were because you said both the year of the vehicle and how many years old they are.
Yeah.
And that doubling that was good.
Mhm.
They
Right.
reinforced it well.
Yeah.
You did really well. Brad, I did notice that your hands and the gestures, but I think you need to hold them a little higher because they got stuck below the podium. So not everybody would see it when you were doing because you were doing the counting on what you were going through, but it was kind of below the podium, so you really couldn't. The audience wouldn't get the full effect of the gesture, which I think is what we're intending for, right?
Yeah, I just wanted.
I was sitting up straight,
Yeah,
actually, Rick.
If I can just talk about the hands for a second, you know, you notice that he actually started out with his hands at the side. He was flexing his hands.
Yes, yes.
So then you made the adjustment. You brought it.
Then I
it
thought
must
of
have-
it.
The light bulb went out.
You getting ready.
But yeah, right. You were flexing the hands. So you don't want to do that because it almost looks like you're getting ready for a race, you know, when you're going to run and go for a race. I thought that, and then you did bring them up and you did, particularly at the end, you talked about safety, reliability, preparedness, and those were all good. I thought your eyes were good. I thought you were making contact. You were connecting with people. You just weren't glancing up. One of the other things I like when you said pump and roll, and as soon as I said, I didn't know what that was, but then you explained it. If you had just said pump and roll, most people really wouldn't understand it. But then you talked about, you know, how that helps you fight fires more often. When you said later on, you talked about, and I wrote down here in one part here, practical. You know, good investment. You want to pause then because that's when you're starting to summarize. This is practical. And whatever words else you were using, you know, a good investment. Let that all sink in rather than practical, good investment, and, you know, in going through there. So those are some comments, some comments in terms of, I thought what you're doing well and some things to improve upon.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mike. All right, let's do let's do one other to Article 10 thing, which is going to be DPW supplemental design.
That's not Article 10, it's Article 7.
Why do we have Public Works facility design in Article 10? Motion.
Looking at the actual.
Looking at the motion.
Word documents.
Yeah, you should take it out.
I talked to her about that. In the final version that-
Okay.
Which warrant has to be finalized in the sense that-
So Article 7 is being voted on Tuesday, right? Yeah,
Right,
it should
so-
be in there.
Okay, I need
Article 17.
I need a new Article 10.
He didn't mention it, so I was just gonna. Well,
Well, I didn't call out every department.
No,
I
I
just. How about IT? They got some big ones in there. don't they?
Yeah, but Mike's not here. For the mock town meeting, we're gonna need each department that has stuff in 10's motion to be prepared with a quick overview.
Why do we
Well,
need a patrol boat?
well, we're gonna have to explain the patrol boat. I don't know if we're ready to explain it right now. Are we? All right. But the patrol boat is, we're gonna have to modify 10 for that too, to reflect. We're not modifying it to reflect the grant?
We're gonna pay part of that.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Appropriation, and we need the authorization to pay for it.
Okay, what do we need a patrol boat for? That's a lot of money.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Moderator. For the record, my name is Jody Casper. I'm the Chief of Police, and I'm presenting this article on behalf of the Harbor Master Division within the Police Department. We are requesting $603,000 to replace one of the Harbor Master Division's primary seasonal patrol vehicles. The vessel we are proposing to replace is Patrol Boat P1. It is a 2000 Sea Ark outboard motorboat that serves as one of the division's primary patrol boats during the boating season. This vessel plays an essential role in all of our operations during the summer season. After more than 2 decades of service, at this point, 26 years of service, the vessel has reached the end of its useful life and now requires increasing maintenance to remain operational. Continuing to rely on this aging vessel creates reliability concerns during the boating season when demand for marine services is high. This project proposes to replace P1 with a Safe Boat 27-foot patrol vessel. The new vessel would be outfitted with the appropriate propulsion, navigation, communication, and safety systems needed to support Harbor Master operations in Nantucket's coastal environment. The project also includes the removal and proper disposition of the existing 2000 Sea Ark. Replacing this vessel will improve operational reliability, reduce ongoing maintenance costs, and ensure that the Harbor Master Division can continue to provide safe and dependable services during the season. This aligns with the strategic plan, but I won't mention that. Proactively, we're replacing this aging equipment. It helps reduce maintenance costs, minimize downtime, and ensures the town can continue operations. Thank you.
I heard we're getting a grant.
Yes, we've heard that too. Thank you for that question. We have been advised and heard about the $350,000 federal grant that is out there. And right now we're working with town administration to get our hands on that grant money. And if we do, then we'll be able to use that toward this. And this would be 603,000 minus 350,000, if indeed that is the funding that we get from the federal government.
Great.
View contact. I thought you had really good eye contact, and it was you weren't racing through it, in terms of your presentation. I thought it was conversational. The only comment, I did a very good job. I liked also when you started talking about and you started counting on some of the things. I would just do a little slower when you're kind of summarizing and saying, and so by doing this, it will, I think you said reduce cost. It'll be safer. It'll be dependable. You don't have to keep counting all the time, but I think that's the opportunity to say it will reduce cost. it'll be safer, and it'll be more dependable. That is really going to sink in. I mean, that is going to be boom. In terms of that, in terms of selling that.
I think in general, from some of the things you've shared today, I want to change this a bit. I think what I came prepared to present is more of like a kind of this is kind of a polished, organized speech, which is fine in a presentation. But I think when I think about our listeners and people who are sitting at the floor of town meeting, I think I need to connect this a little more to like, these are the boats you see out doing mooring inspections, doing responses. They're in the harbor, to make it a little more relatable. So I actually want to change some of this to make it that way. It's hard to have it be conversational and also have it written in front of you. So I prefer conversational. I think it's stronger and more engaging, but I also want to make sure I hit the key points. So it's great feedback. I appreciate it. And I'll tune this up a little bit.
Yep. And you certainly answered why do we need one?
Yep.
Is there a coordination with fire in this, the integration of services? Because I think that's been a thing in the community about fire boats and all of that. So if there is an intersection there between this vessel and fire, it's worth mentioning just briefly.
Yep, I can hit on that. There isn't really, but I would say that in the whole harbor master fleet, that all public safety services work together, and we all may end up on any of them, really. So I can absolutely hit that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And when I say just for everybody, conversational, you remember, think about how the town meeting started. How many years has Nantucket been doing a town meeting?
300 and something years.
So, I mean, think of that back then when they were doing it, there were no slides. I don't even know if they had any paper to write on, but again, it was a conversation with your neighbors as to what you were trying to persuade people to do and to try to improve life on Nantucket. So, that doesn't mean it's a conversation and, Rick, I'm just talking about this and, blah, blah, blah. It's just try to make it not as formal in terms of the tone that you're taking, understanding that, there's got to still be, this is a formal thing that people are going to be voting on, but, just relaxed conversation with your neighbors of how you're trying to improve life on the island.
All we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 years is tying articles to the select board strategic plan. If we're not going to do that, then we need to make sure everybody knows that and 86 that from our structure.
I agree. That's the message that we use in our videos, trying to link every article to the strategic plan. And although people might not know about the strategic plan, I think that what we discussed on Tuesday is that the importance that people learn about the strategic plan.
I'm sorry for what I said, because I didn't want to, I don't want to, but referencing without spending too much time on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The balance.
Yeah.
I just get concerned about going down the rabbit hole of mentioning it, of getting 1,000 questions about the strategic plan itself from town.
That so far that hasn't happened. And if it does, we can say it, it's not really relevant right now. We'll get back to you, or the more important point is we need blah, blah, blah.
And it's particularly relevant for Christmas.
Yeah. Okay. So Mike, we told you to take it out, but leave it in, but brief mention.
I think the important part of the strategic plan is that we're thoughtful when we're making choices of where to invest. Right. So when we decide what to put on the capital, it is part of a strategy, right, of investing. So from that sense, the strategic plan is a guiding force, a guiding document in what we're doing, and that's really good to talk about. But the sort of, and it fits in the strategic plan this way and that way, feels a little I can't come up with the right word, but sort of weaving in that it's part of an overarching strategy on smart investment is probably where we need to go.
Yeah. All right.
So then it might be better with that to reference it in the intro and not have every department reference it in in their piece, like in Article 10 specifically, because all the individual articles should, but if we're gonna do it that way, then it should be probably referenced as part of the Article 10 intro, I think would be better to do it.
Yeah,
than
that's a good idea.
individualize it.
So Mike, take it back out.
Right. I think that's a good idea. I was just gonna say, like, I like the idea of tying things to the strategic plan, housing. I actually didn't put it in my script, but I thought about it in terms of like, well, I'm not the only person that believes in a new DPW facility. It's part of the select board strategic plan. But mentioning it for every single vehicle or little thing, it seems, I don't know, like too much and repetitive. And I like that it's in the videos that we put out that people will stumble across on social media. But I think we need to be a little just strategic about when we mention the strategic plan
Yeah.
in terms of.
So we'll mention it in the intro that Brian does. The individual departments don't need to mention it in their comments, but it'll also be in the videos. That's how we'll leave it. Okay. Any other feedback for Jody? Thank you,
Thank
Jody.
you.
Very good job. All right, let's do NRD. Jeff, you have a number of items. So I have an old Article 10, but
I think that the one that is gonna get probably most discussed in our program. At least if I was looking at it, that'd be.
yeah. So, Jeff, and while you're coming up there, and I think we've addressed this internally, but the Current had an article the other day about enforcement, and it was sprinkled with comments from Jeff that came from not from them asking him questions for the article, but from a meeting of several months ago, because they apparently don't believe in the normal journalistic practice of asking questions about a current article. They prefer to use comments made at a completely different meeting that wasn't about enforcement. In any event, one of the things that did kind of get across in that article about fertilizer specifically is something that Malcolm said, which is we can't go on people's private property and enforce their use of bad fertilizer. We can only see it happening and deal with it that way. But as you did say in your presentation to I believe it's the Capcom,
Yes.
which is where they mined your comments from. Education is really the best way to deal with all this. So anyway, somebody will probably say, why do we need to spend, what are we asking for?
$390,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money for teaching people about fertilizer.
Sure. So, thank you, Madam Moderator, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jeff Carlson, Natural Resources Director. I'm here to talk to you today about fertilizer education. And when I think about Nantucket, the first thing that comes to mind are our pristine outdoor areas, our ponds, our harbors, our wildlands. And really, fertilizer is something that can impact these areas right up there with any of our other big discharges like wastewater and stormwater. So as we've tackled this problem over the last decade, and we've heard loud and clear from town meeting through the years, fertilizer has been an issue that's been discussed greatly. It's been proposed for a ban and a home rule petition by town meeting. They've passed the original article, creating the bylaw for fertilizer enforcement. Really, for us, we've been trying to tackle this for years and haven't done the job that needs to be accomplished. To do this, we need to educate. And tonight is a great opportunity for us to kick this off the right way with a room of everyone here understanding its importance. And the way we commit to that is by committing to the funding to help our landscapers learn about how to properly apply, what to apply, and when to apply. But almost more importantly, for everyone in this room to understand why they're doing the things that they're doing on their properties, the questions to ask their landscapers, and how we can each be involved in better understanding the impacts of our property to our waters and to our wildlands. And what this signifies by committing to the funding tonight, the $390,000, is an opportunity for us to create a program that includes the regulatory testing that's required, gets in the hands of people and the hands of homeowners for everyone to learn about the best practices and the way to use fertilizers and to address this impact in a productive way, in a way that helps supplement our enforcement efforts by getting information to people first so we can better have a handle on what's happening and how we can all help us forward. So we're looking for your support to kick this program off formally and get this back on track and hopefully have cleaner waters with more eelgrass and more scallops and for all of us to go enjoy. Sorry, I didn't prepare a script, so that was just kind of off the cuff.
All enjoy at the end and not trail off. That should only be trailed off. And I think that would be something that I think it's really great action. I think.
And he did that right off the bat too.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
I leave all wastewater discharge to sewer department of David Gray.
Two thoughts. If I can try to remember, the phrase that comes to mind is it's the importance that the intersection of education and enforcement. They cannot work independently, neither alone, right?
Correct.
So, and then the other thing, I like the idea of a culture, fostering a culture of shared responsibility for the protection of our natural resources. And that's what education fosters or helps foster a culture of, because I think that's what's missing is a shared sense of responsibility. And that's what messaging not only tells people what to do, but the why of why we're doing this. So I don't know if you can weave that in at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that actually mirrors kind of what I said to the Capcom and made into the current article. So I can definitely weave that in.
On that, because I think you really picked up on that, Brooke. First of all, very conversational, great eye contact. I mean, you were having a conversation with your neighbors. In terms of that, you had talked about when it's almost like you talk about that culture, but you came and you said like you were talking about like each person taking responsibility. So rather than each person, each of us, and then ramble, going on, each of us. So you're kind of like, you're recruiting everybody, saying it, look, it's all our responsibility, but you slow down and you pause then each of us. That gets people's attention. And then at the end, you talk about how we all, in terms of how we all do it. So that way, and I think that is have to do with what Brick is talking about too, as a culture, is we're all in this by saying each, it's going to sink in. We're all responsible and all of us here. But other than that, I thought, very, very good.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, let's do IT. And let's pretend somebody wants to know about all the IT items. Why do we need new phone system? Why do we not need to have to buy any computers? Why do we have to keep buying computers for people? Yeah.
That's right.
So what's the question? Sorry.
You're gonna explain briefly the items that you have in Article 10. Which we can tell you are the phone system for 350, the annual computers, which is one, and printers and all that, which is 110, and the online permitting software, which is 100.
Sorry. Yeah, I doubt I'll get all three questions, but if there's one or two that would. Annual computers, that's the one that's.
Well, see, I think phone, because I
Sure.
think the annual computer question got nailed shut maybe previously. Yeah.
Sure.
What's wrong with the existing phones?
Right,
Blah,
right,
blah, blah.
right. So this request is to fund the installation and setup of a new cloud-based phone system that would cover both the town and public safety.
The phone system that we currently use is woefully out of date. The current phones that we have on our desks cannot be updated or upgraded any further and cannot be replaced. We are currently purchasing replacements from eBay. So in order to move on from this, we need to upgrade our phone system. It's an unfortunate expense, but it's sorely needed and will be very useful, of course, for our remote workers and those that, as we've learned during COVID, need to work from home from time to time. They can now continue to do their services and functions and be in communication at full time.
I thought you were very authoritative. You came across, you knew what you were talking about.
Right.
You had great tone. I mean, you spoke, very, I like when you said cannot, you're talking, this cannot, something's got to change. And also you smile too. So you're really connecting. I mean, kind of, this is part of what's going to do. The one comment I would have is you had your hands behind your back the whole time.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. So, you just want to get them out front.
That's how I'm comfortable. I prefer to exude comfort. I've been a street performer. I was a street performer, for years. So this is, I can do the dance if you want, like whatever's needed, but this is what makes me comfortable and keeps my posture straight more than anything else.
I love the comment about eBay. That really,
Yeah, that was good.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do think that like those kind of layperson examples are super helpful. So one thing I was asking in my head is, I don't know if people understand that phones are computers now. So for like a typical layperson, is it useful to say phones are kind of computers now? And there is an expectation that they get replaced on a consistent basis, similar to computers because of the way that they're used. And I don't know if people know that. And then the other thing is, I just thought it would be nice to hear, well, how many phones are we replacing? Like, how many phones does this town possibly have? And when they hear the number, I think they'd be like, wow, that's a lot.
I'll make sure to prep for that number. It's in the 700 or 800, I think, total like numbers.
Yeah, I think people would find that shocking and useful to better understand why it's that much money.
You touched on public safety, and I just think that gets to the heart of voters.
Okay.
When you say like remote employees, they might be like,
yeah.
I just feel like people care more about public safety than
Of course,
anybody else.
Yeah. This is a broad scope phone project. It's not just phones on desks. So
I do think the remote people are worth mentioning though, because
yes, absolutely,
it is only going to grow.
Right. I mean, I can certainly go into further detail on cloud-based phone systems if that's what's necessary, but I don't want to. I can bore people very quickly.
Yeah.
So
let's try not to.
Yeah.
I think we always have to talk about the rapid pace of evolving technology, right?
Right.
That we have to keep up. Because there are more things we can do with these tools.
Right.
As we upgrade them, and so we're keeping up.
Yeah.
To a great extent. Nobody has a princess phone at home anymore.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for Mike? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, so Article 11 is the next article. That's the island home. Unfortunately, Dawn can't be here. She's going to be the main point of contact for that article. I did ask Bob to stay and speak on it, but now I'm kind of thinking that we could really go down a rabbit hole with that. So maybe we should, Florencia, add 11 to, we're going to have another little separate sort of a session with some of the more detailed articles that are likely to be called, including this one. And the FinCom doesn't have a motion yet either. So let's put that off till our special other session. 12 is school athletic facilities. That's Beth. She'll come in later. Okay, 13, the town employee housing design. Christy did a very good job at FinCom last night. They finally approved it, not unanimously, kind of closest vote, but this is definitely going to come up. And one of the FinCom members asked, oh, I didn't think you could bring an article back more than 2 times. That is only for zoning, certain types of zoning, not even all of it. And but I think we're going to get people who say, we voted this down last year. So we're going to have to do a little reminding of what the difference between last year and this year.
And remind people that we could put it down, it just didn't pass by 2/3.
Right.
So it was a majority.
Yeah.
Okay, who is very?
I am going to start timing. I mean, I tried to do it before, but I'm going to start
Yeah.
timing
Yep.
how long we take per article.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Christy Ferrantalo, the town's housing director. Article 13 asks voters to authorize borrowing up to $7 million to design, permit, and construct municipal housing on town-owned lots along Waite Drive. It's important to note that what we're discussing tonight represents phase 1 of a larger municipal housing effort. The town owns 5 buildable lots on Waite Drive, and over time, those lots could potentially support up to 35 bedrooms of municipal employee housing. This first phase allows us to begin that process in a thoughtful and manageable way. This project is intended to create up to 7 bedrooms through a mix of single-family homes and duplexes. These homes are intended to support town and school employees, teachers, police officers, firefighters, DPW staff, and all other municipal workers. They're the people who keep our town running every single day. Right now, the high cost of housing continues to make it extremely difficult to hire and retain these essential employees. Quite simply, the people who work for the town cannot afford to live here. As a result, positions remain unfilled, departments are stretched thin, and the services that all of you depend on every day are under increasing pressure. Providing stable housing for our workforce is one of the most effective long-term solutions we have to address this challenge. A recent employee survey revealed that over 40% of our workforce is housing cost burden, and nearly 2/3 report that their current housing situation is unlikely to remain secured beyond the next 3 years. Even more concerning, close to 40% indicate that they'll need to find new housing within the next year. Currently, the housing department oversees just over 40 housing units, but 25 of those units are rented from private homeowners. These arrangements are helpful, but they're also vulnerable to rent increases and changes that we cannot control. By developing town-owned housing, we can provide more stable options that support long-term employee retention and workforce stability. Additionally, the housing department maintains a housing needs list. This currently includes approximately 40 town employees seeking housing. This includes staff from the school, airport, police, sewer, and so on. Almost half of these employees on our needs list are teachers or school administrators. Providing stable housing is not only critical for our workforce, but for the long-term success for our students. The Waite Drive lots present a unique opportunity. The town already owns the land. It's well suited for residential development, and the building multiple units on a single lot allows us to manage the housing more efficiently than maintaining scattered sites across the island. Over the past year, town administration and the housing department have worked on different approaches. Am I running out of time? For this project, including funding structures, phasing options, and recommendations from the Capital Programs Committee. Ultimately, to move forward with a municipal project of this type, town meeting authorization to borrow is necessary. One of the concerns we've heard in previous years was that voters wanted a clear cost estimate before making a decision. In response to that, we've worked diligently over the past year to complete a full procurement process. And what I present tonight is X number of dollars to build X number of bedrooms. And we have finalized cost information, a complete building layout, and a clear project scope to show the public what exactly we're going to do and how we're going to do it. This article is about investing in the people who serve this community year-round. We've already built a seasonal municipal dorm, and we've taken care of our seasonal employees. By building and owning municipal employee housing, the town can provide stable housing for our workforce that ensures Nantucket continue to function with the level of services the residents expect. In closing, this article represents a strategic long-term step toward addressing our municipal housing needs and allows the town to begin building this housing infrastructure that's necessary to support our employees and our community. Thank you.
I don't think anybody else.
I've got something to say. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes, hang on, Charlie. Brian is asking a question about the tax rate impact. It's going to be in the video.
Okay.
It'll be in the voter's guide because there will be a QR code. So no, I don't think she needs to say it. Christy, the only quick thing I would say is you talk about the housing list or the people who are in housing, you say, and so on. I would eliminate and so on. Just, it includes these employees.
I almost would have ended or wrapped up after, like, I think the last 2 paragraphs up from the end where you emphasize the need. There was a emphasis of need. You emphasize it. I can't remember which wording it was, but I would almost use that as the jump point to just a couple sentence wrap up, because I think it really resonated the way you said it and made me think, okay, this is really why we need to do this.
Jody, did you have something?
Yeah, I thought it was great with presentation style. I liked you had like data points in there that were good, resulting from your survey that you did. I don't know if you can say this or if it's true, but just kind of being very firm and clear that like this housing will go to municipal employees. Like, I think I talked to you, I think a little about this before, but there's a concern that like we say that, but then it might not happen. So if this housing truly can only go to municipal employees, like that is its intent. And I don't know if it's limited by income limits. So if it's this housing is for municipal employees, no income limits, and we are planning on, this is our commitment to having experienced for future leadership of all of our different departments and organizations. I just think it would strengthen it to hit that point hard.
Okay.
Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the one part where I kind of got stuck, and I was just as listening as a citizen, was we're appropriating $7 million for 7 bedrooms, and then I kind of got stuck on that for like a couple more paragraphs while you were talking, and I phased back in. So I don't know if there's a better like that. I'm sure will be a sticking point from the public going $1 million a bedroom. It's I don't know. It's just something that I got hung up on, and I could easily see someone at town meeting going $1 million a bedroom. Like, does this make sense? How do we do this cheap? It's just one of those things I think you're going to get hit with.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a very good point. And that came up extensively at FinCom yesterday. Brooke,
I just
and then
wanted to
Brooke.
say your focus on teachers and administrators is really important because there's a misunderstanding in the community who are municipal employees and who were housing in municipal employee housing, and that teachers are not eligible. So that was really important. And I do think as to the cost, maybe it's just a statement of, we have looked at this 6 ways from Sunday and it costs what it costs. Like I know I'm not saying that in the way that people are going to hear, but somehow communicating that we work very hard to make sure we're minimizing the cost of building these units. But the reality is this is what it costs to build housing for the municipality.
Thanks.
And
People know that municipal employees pay rent. I don't know if people know that, but I know that there's some people who feel like I live here, I pay for my stuff. Why should it like get housing?
This came up at FinCom last night too, and trying to work in that there will be an offset in rent, but that'll be used for maintenance down the road.
But I think the point more is the municipal employees are paying to live here. It's not free.
I know you may disagree with this, but I actually thought Jeremy Bloom made a really good point last night. So there's going to be like, I'm just making it up, $125,000 a year of rent that comes from these units.
Mhm.
There's no way it's going to cost $125,000 to maintain those units each year, especially in the early years. We were talking about this earlier, but I do think we need to build in the fact that this isn't $7 million. First of all, it's not $7 million. If everybody could stop saying $7 million, it'd probably be in a better place. Let's say it's $5 million. we need to start talking about this as there's income that comes off of these things. This is not a $5 million investment. It's a $5 million investment less $125,000 a year rental income, something to that effect. Because otherwise, I mean, if you're going to do this privately, you're going to go to the bank and ask them to borrow $5 million to build this thing, and they're going to say, well, what's your income stream? You're going to say, well, I got $125,000 a year in rent. It's a real thing. So we need to figure out how to work into that there's income that's thrown off of this.
But
irrespective of the mechanics of
go ahead.
captured income. Sorry.
The rent won't just go to the maintenance of this facility. The rent from all employees goes into one revolving fund for maintenance of town employee housing facilities.
Sure, but my way of thinking, it's money. Money's
Yeah.
fungible, left pocket, right
Yeah.
pocket. There's $125,000 a year more in that revolver because we have these apartments.
Yes, and we also have another facility now to maintain, and never mind that we haven't really been maintaining the facilities. We don't want to get into this on the floor,
no,
but
I'm-
the facilities that we already own haven't been maintained very well.
Yeah, Drew. Yeah, Drew.
This isn't my article. Don't come at me.
Go ahead, Drew.
Oh, really quick, along the same lines of what Jody and Brooke were saying. The one thing that I think you were very close to hitting the nail on the head on was currently we have 40 employees. And I don't know, I forget exactly how you worded it, but I think the intent of it is that we have about 40 employees who could lose their housing tomorrow. This is dire. This is like, hit that point home a little bit more. I don't, again, it's been a few minutes since you said it, but stressing how fragile our all of our employment is because of housing. I think that was a good way to set the stage for then everything you should say after that, which is, so let's do this,
I was just going to add that same comment. I can tell you from a nursing point of view, it's the stability and the consistency of your workforce. That's because people say, you might get other people, but I can tell you how dire it is. People either leave or they won't come because of housing. That is absolutely number one for nurses. And I know from talking to teachers that I used to, someone to say the same thing. So that's a quality that we keep talking about: consistency and stability of the quality of the work that you're going to get. If you're a teacher for your kids, if you're a nurse for the patient, it's very important. People forget about that.
Brooke, were you going to say something? Oh, we just bring the microphone to Brooke Valencia. Thank you.
The phrase that popped into my head about the revenue stream is that this is a responsible investment because employees will be paying rent and those revenues will offset the cost of ownership over time. Like something along those lines. You don't be specific about where it's going to be spent or whether it's going to be paying down debt or maintenance, but this actually creates a working financial system where building it and owning it and having this rental income makes it financially responsible for the long term. And then I think the cost of employee turnover, which I know is not necessarily in your wheelhouse, but the purpose we're doing this is that it costs a lot, both in quality of services and financially, to hire and train new employees is a huge amount of overhead for the community. So having stable housing for municipal employees reduces our operational overhead across the entire municipal system. And any department head will tell you that that's the case.
I don't know if we need to put this in what you're saying, because I think you did a good job, but I think that we do have to Brooke's point about cost of ownership, we should be able to, and to Rick's point, say we're going to get $150,000 a year in rent, okay, for these, when we construct these. 75,000 gets applied to debt service, which reduces the cost to the taxpayer over the 20-year life of the bond by X, and into the revolving fund for maintenance of houses goes X over that same period, which reduces your ultimate cost of ownership and on the repair and maintenance side as well. Because I think if this is a $7 million bond or bonding, and we develop a plan that generates a couple $1 million over the life of the debt, which reduces the taxpayer's out-of-pocket expense, it actually shows the fiscal responsibility in doing this. And I think it would be better and helpful to get it over the finish line. So I
I'll
don't think it
let
has
you
to be
make
in
that
Christie, I don't
comment.
think it has to be in Christie's plan, but I think we should be prepared to respond when they say that somehow. And it's probably going to be me, but I still think it would be helpful.
I'll make sure I call on you.
You can, but I do think it would be helpful.
I mean, I think that's a great point, but that's technical. And I think it'll go over a lot of people's heads. And I think it needs to be simple and layman's terms. And there's a cost to not doing this, basically, you know, or we can do this, or we can continue to spend money on turnover and training and overtime and blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Well, that was, I feel like I've taken a lot in and out of this over the years, but do I want to touch on if we go and buy on the market, it's about $1 million to $1.5 million per bedroom, or if we're renting, we're now getting quoted $10,000 a month for a 3-bedroom. Like, we can't, as a town, do we make the decision to just keep renting and spend that out of our operating budget, or do we invest in this? Because then people get mad that we're renting, so.
That's a question you can probably anticipate, so you can kind of have that ready to go, but at the end of the day, your 3 to 5 minutes are something to like convince everybody to vote for this one thing. So how much detail, I know what you mean, right? But like, how much detail can we put in that original 3 to 5 minutes versus the stuff we need to kind of have ready to go for this following?
Okay.
She wants to punt it to me as the select board rep on the like that's focused on housing. Like, I can tag team with her a little bit too. And Brian can on the financial side. So.
And one thing the FinCom and Capcom gave feedback on was the confusion between affordable housing and municipal housing. So I will have something prepped kind of explaining the difference and why this is specific.
Yeah, I think one quick thought from my end too is you're going to have a lot of articles in front of this one that may get called and discussed. So I think on the more controversial articles, I think there's going to have to be some level of, reading the room and what kind of the theme of the questions have been. And I think Jody made a really good point of like holding some of that information in reserve, because if you put it in advance, that may be something that's a triggering question for people that brings upon more scrutiny when you put it in. So I think there's always that give and take at town meeting where, a lot of people get up and talk multiple times. Some people don't talk at all, but I think these articles that have a lot of feelings about them, understanding what's happening in the room, I think it's going to be really important.
Question, are you planning to have slides?
I'll have a slide of what the development will look like.
Yeah, because I think some of the numbers might be helpful, because when you start talking about the bedrooms, just wondering 30, how many 8 bedrooms, and it just might be easier for people to understand. Otherwise, it's very easy, particularly with numbers. If you have a lot of numbers in a presentation, that people can kind of get lost and get confused without seeing it. And just, I thought, again, it was very conversational style. You looked up until the end. And I think the closing is when you particularly want to get up, because you were speaking, you were engaging with them for most of the presentation, and then you were talking to them at the end, as opposed to summarizing, and closing and saying, these are the things, and summarizing it. So just continue going through what you did for the majority of the presentation.
Okay. Yeah, I kept pushing the podium. That's true. I'll make sure to bring Frankie.
I think in the questions, we are going to get caught up in the rent and the cost and the bedrooms and the blah, blah, blah. FinCom was a good prep for that. So I think we'll just have to get the questions and the answers fairly straightened out. Yeah, I know.
Rick and I just kind of looked at each other.
we're on the market buying houses like Christie, it's basically $1 million a bedroom, but it also has a much longer term impact on the town because it takes that assessed value off the tax rolls, and it takes property tax out.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Because the building here on the land we have, we're not paying tax on it already, so there's no, we're not taking something out of the market.
Yeah.
Make sure you say that.
Yeah, well, that Lowell calls me every time the land bank buys something, it says, how much are we losing?
Okay.
Can department heads or Beth stand up and speak about the impact of housing or?
Yeah, we could.
It's not even just this article, but a lot of times I think we are guilty of just letting one person up there, go up there, do it all on their own.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like there's a lot of support from other departments. Because you were the select board, Capcom or FinCom, a lot of people got us to this point and then are silent during the meeting, you know?
Yes, that's a very good point.
I
I'm
think
not-
Beth has a really good story that she presented at the State House around teacher retention, and that might be a helpful.
Yeah, she does. So we could try to work out with her. Please raise your hand after Christy or something like that. And if there's anybody, I don't think we want it to be a total free for all. I mean, sometimes it just is happenstance that a department head might have a really excellent point and they're able to make it, but it isn't really planned. It's also good to know though, if we could have a few planned things so that it doesn't look like nobody's saying anything about it. And it's kind of like, well, we don't really support it, so we're not going to say anything. But yeah, so to the extent we can line anybody up, that would be great.
Okay.
All right.
I do think this is such an important article. I think it would be really great. From the board perspective, because I think sometimes it's important to you guys, but it gets lost.
To the point earlier about this is the #1 priority select board in the strategic plan for impacts every other part of municipal operations. Rely on people to get the job done. And if people don't have a place to live, the job doesn't get done,
Mhm.
whatever the job is.
Yep.
And so I'm happy to get up and like put an explanation for it.
And tagging on to the point of people speaking on things, probably when the board is talking about its comments to the articles, I might pipe in with, it's important that board members speak on articles if it looks like there's a little, need for that, because I think what we see a lot of times is nobody says anything, like you're saying, Drew, and it looks like the town isn't supporting its own article.
I think yesterday, I think Tom was a really good example of that.
Mhm.
Like, when the sewer article was up.
Yep.
and
Yeah.
I chimed in and reinforced why we did what we did. at the
Yes.
select board level,
Yep.
And then they moved to a motion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, but it was like, yeah, it was sort of that punctuation mark.
Right.
On all the information that everybody else had presented. them.
Yeah.
So your point is well.
Okay, Christy, great job. Thank you very much. All right, we got 14's next, Lorianne Barrick.
Yes. and
Repairs.
So we're thinking about not taking a break. And
Yeah, we're
just
thinking about did we have the break in the schedule?
in between noon and 1. So, but everybody's here and
Well, how do we feel? I mean, do people, I don't, if people feel like they really need to go do some stuff and come back, that's completely fine. I'm probably just going to stay here, but how do we feel about keeping going for like another half an hour?
I need to run out for just a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just go after my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, let's try to get to Drew's article in the next half an hour, which means we have to accelerate a tiny bit. And then maybe the break then, and we'll see where we are at then.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, Lorraine.
I would say the
same thing on this, that I want to make adjustments to this because I think I've learned some things this morning that would impact how I would say this, but. So this is Article 14, the Loran. So good morning. Thank you, Madam Moderator. For the record, my name is Jody Casper, Chief of Police for the Nantucket Police Department. The former Coast Guard Loran facility provides critical housing for the Nantucket Police Department personnel, including 2 year-round employees and up to 45 seasonal community service officers. This housing is essential to the department's ability to staff and deploy community service officers during the summer months when Nantucket's population increased significantly and demand for public safety services is at its highest. Further, the Community Service Officer Program is the department's primary pipeline for recruiting new police officers. Over the past 3 years, 53% of our newly hired officers previously served as CSOs, demonstrating the program's critical role in sustaining and building our year-round workforce. Following the town's acquisition of the former Coast Guard Loran Station in 2018, an assessment of the nearly 70-year-old facilities was conducted by SMRT architects and engineers who were engaged to evaluate the building and provide a comprehensive plan for needed repairs and improvements. Based on that study, the town has undertaken a carefully phased multi-year renovation to keep the housing operational while addressing critical deficiencies. Since 2019, completed work has included exterior renovations to both the men's and women's dormitories, major interior upgrades and the creation of additional living units, replacement of aging mechanical and electrical systems, and full roof replacement to protect our investment. Through phases 1, 2, 3, the town has invested approximately $5 million to stabilize, modernize, and extend the useful life of this public safety housing asset. I want to thank town meeting members for their previous investments in this facility. Those investments have allowed us to preserve and significantly improve a critical public safety housing resource while keeping it operational throughout construction. I'm before you now asking for your support in completing phase 4, which will address the remaining interior renovations to the men's dormitory, including long overdue upgrades to bathrooms, plumbing, electrical, and fire alarm systems, kitchen and dining areas, and heating and cooling systems. Completing this phase will bring the building into full code compliance and allow the town to fully realize the value of this investment that's already been made. It's our expectation that once this phase is completed, and with the final phase 5 project to connect the facility to the town sewer systems in FY28, this major capital work at the Loran will be done. And together with the renovations already completed, with the new roof and all these earlier phases, these improvements will fully stabilize the property for the long term. And at that point, we anticipate that the building will require only routine maintenance, and we do not expect any further significant capital costs for many years. In short, completing the final phases of this project will put both buildings in excellent condition and allow the town to maintain safe, reliable, and low-cost housing for the police department's seasonal and 2 year-round employees. Thank you.
Do you want to say anything about mold / mildew and or the status of the septic system?
No, I don't. No, I had those in this originally, and actually kind of what we were talking about before of kind of having them in my back pocket.
Okay.
I think at this point, I'm just trying to convince people to do it.
Yeah.
I have answers to those questions if I'm
Okay,
asked,
okay.
but that's why I didn't include them. I can certainly put them in there if you think it's
No, I
appropriate.
actually, now that I think about it, why propose problems that somebody might not?
That's
ask
why I
about?
took them out.
What I could be mistaken that we need to check this. I thought in one of the other parts of this, or the capital request to connect sewer already.
That is phase 5, which wasn't.
I think it was for design, not construction.
Need to be prepared again because there wasn't an allocation for it, which was supposed to connect the sewer, so we're gonna need to park that difference.
Yeah.
Okay, just.
Mhm.
If it wasn't our.
Yep.
that will likely be one of
Okay.
We should have at our fingertips everything that's been spent on this project.
I
to
have all that
date.
in front of me.
Great.
Yep.
I'll leave it here. I'll do it.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. There's two of you. Christy?
Do you plan on having photos of the newly renovated women's side?
That we put up and show. So I wasn't planning on doing that, and I don't want to be disingenuous by having people think that this money is going to make the other dorm exactly what the women's dorm is, because the reality is they're 10 years different in when they were built, and the one is just going to be nicer even when this work is done. So I wasn't going to put that in there. The men's side is older and a little smaller and darker, and it's not going to look like the women's side. Yeah.
I think we need to be prepared to answer, why didn't we just build new?
Oh, I have that answer. Yep. So I have a focus on two priorities with this project, and that is housing, which is a priority for the whole town and all of our employees that we talk about all the time, part of the strategic plan, and keeping the cost for the town down. I am acutely aware of all the capital projects that are before taxpayers, today and into the future. We've all talked about them at various meetings. We have big expenditures coming, and there's going to be really challenging questions that people are going to have to vote on whether or not they want to be paying for these projects. So when we look at this, we look at an existing asset and whether or not we can make this asset quality, reliable housing for our employees. I think that with this additional request, including phase 5 with the sewer connection, it's the most cost-effective way to go about providing housing while not hurting taxpayers as much as a new dorm would be. The new dorm that was recently built for lifeguards that the housing office is now overseeing, it's $12.5 million. That was a few years ago. If we replicated that dorm, I'm sure the cost would be closer to 20 million, and we would have to find land to put it on. So right now we have an existing structure, and this is a more fiscally responsible way to go about it. Perhaps in 20 years, when we've accomplished all these other giant capital projects, we can talk about a new dorm, but this is a fiscally responsible approach for our seasonal housing.
So it could be done a lot quicker, that answer, in my mind. It could be, this is far more cost effective because we're repurposing an existing asset, a resource that's already there. Renovation's cheaper than new. And I think, why can't we build new in that location?
Ocean.
Right. So we would never be permitted to build in that location. So we would need to acquire land, thus increasing the cost, or repurpose land. And that new is more expensive than renovation.
Okay, makes
And
sense. Thank you.
I bet the HDC will call this a historic structure and won't want anything to happen to it.
Timelines, whatever,
Okay, thank you. I don't think we can build new there because it's or if we did, we'd have to pop it up similar to the Harbor Masters, which would be very expensive because it's in a flood zone.
So we don't use that word.
Great job.
I thought you really did a good job. I thought it was a very compelling argument. I particularly liked how you were emphasizing, how you said right up front, 2-year-round employees, put it that. But I think you really emphasize significantly, highest, carefully phased, full code compliance. I mean, those really sunk in because the way that you spoke it, and really emphasize that. And that really, I think that made a difference in terms of how something will be comprehended.
Also about building new elsewhere. I don't know if we can really say it like this, but this is an ideal spot for seasonal employees. They're not bothering anybody. They can go have their parties and do whatever, and no one complains about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was a stat that this provides a pipeline to full-time officers as well. Yeah.
which has created an on-site management department.
There now exists an on-site, an apartment on-site management.
Yep.
Maybe worth saying, or maybe worth, you know.
Yeah, I have a list of 8 steps that we've taken since we learned about last year when we had complaints from residents. I have a list of the 8 steps that we've taken to address that, including partnering with housing, getting air conditioners for all the rooms, the building maintenance, contracting with cleaning, contracting with the caretakers. So I had that list. I was hesitant to put it because I think that answers kind of the mold and conditions question. So I had it as a, if anyone asks, that's what I would say. Oh, okay. Yep.
My only concern is the septic's currently failed out there. And I just don't want, because there's been a lot of people inquiring about that, especially with Board of Health. And you did mention that you're adding some living space. That's only going to multiply the problems with the septic. And I know we pump it out all the time. So I just want you to be careful with that because there's a lot of people that are focusing on that.
Yeah,
I'm
I
aware
do
of.
have an answer to the septic question because I do anticipate that. And I think like right now we have 2 pumps out there, as you well know, and we have a company coming out to look at them to resolve the problem for the short term. The long-term solution to that is phase 5, where we're hooking up to town septic. The septic what? The septic is functional. So we had some slow draining last summer. We had a company come out and take a look at it. And they said, yeah, it's draining a little slowly. We don't know if there's a clog or if there's a problem with the system. And that's what we've had them come out to look at. So DigSafe has been out there. They were just about ready to go. And then we got about 2 feet of snow covering it up. So we're just waiting for the company to come out and take a look at it. Whatever they tell us from that, we'll deal with that short term. That'll be a short-term solution. It'll be fully functional. And then we'll look forward to phase 5 that'll hook us up to town sewer.
But it isn't a septic situation like 77 Bartlett where wastewater is leaking out all over the yard.
That's
Is it?
correct. No leaking, nothing like that. The only problems reported to us is just slow drainage. And
Yeah.
that's what we want to address before we do have any further problems. And that's what we'll remedy with this company as soon as the snow melts.
Okay. All right. Tom Nevers. Thank you very much, Jody. That was really good. Tom Nevers, Article 16. Charlie, you still on?
Yep, still here.
Great. All right. So it's called, you're going to give us your 3-minute summary of this.
Sure. Good evening, Madam Moderator. I'm Charlie Polacki, the Parks and Recreation Manager. Tonight I'm here to talk to you about Article 16, which is Phase 2 of the Tom Nevers Debris Removal Project. This project will be a continuation of the recently completed Phase 1, where we focus on the debris on the coastline as well as the west side of the property, where we created the beach access for the project. The goal of Phase 2 is to remove surface and buried debris between the bluff and the bunker before erosion causes it to fall on the beach. Removing the debris before it gets to the beach or within the coastal buffer zones is much easier, more efficient, and cost-effective from a planning, permitting, and construction standpoint. That's it.
Oh, that's great. Feedback?
I thought really very conversational, again, on Zoom versus, in person, but very conversational, easy to follow. Voice was very, very good. Tone was good. I thought it was very well done.
Right to the point.
Yep.
Okay. I should mention, we did skip article. Charlie, thank you. That was really excellent. We'll get to any questions during the, like mock questions when we do the mock session. We skipped Article 15, that Somerset sewer needs area, because we're going to do that separately. All right, 17. Drew needs to come back for 17. He just stepped out for a second, I think. But while we're waiting for him, let's keep going. So 19 is enterprise funds capital. Airport, okay, airports on their own. They have a lot of items.
I didn't write anything for that.
Next one we have for today's training will be 17, and then we jump on other articles, 67,
67.
73, and then some season articles.
I still need 18, 19 and 19's motion. Let's see. Well, I also had some questions that I still need to have answered on all of them. All right, Drew, we're on 17.
Charlie, here to go.
Yep.
Wow.
He record time.
Short and sweet.
We were so anxious to get to DPW, we just said, "Great."
You just said you didn't care about this project. Guess I'll turn. Sorry. As best I can. All right, ready?
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and good evening. I'm Drew Patno, Director of Public Works. I don't believe this article needs much introduction. Unfortunately, this is the third year in a row that we are seeking supplemental funding for to complete the final design of a new DPW facility. That said, I think it's worth noting that we are requesting the same amount, 1.2 million, for the third consecutive year. That reflects our commitment to moving this project forward, both efficiently and responsibly, without unnecessary spending. What we are asking for today is pretty straightforward. We need this funding to finalize the design of this facility, put the project out to bid, and return to you at a future special or annual town meeting with actual construction bids in hand. Only then will voters be able to make a fully informed decision about whether to move forward with construction, not one based on estimates or projections. Since last year's town meeting, we have made meaningful progress on this critical project. First, we completed the design development phase of this project. This resulted in far more detailed plans for the facility than we had this time a year ago. Previously, I kind of jumped ahead. At this time last year, we had a site plan, a floor plan, and conceptual renderings. Today, we have refined plans that bring the project closer to a buildable design. Second, we have begun the process of value engineering. We understand that large capital projects are always difficult decisions for voters, and we want to ensure that this project is as economical as possible without sacrificing the long-term functionality of the facility or the DPW's ability to grow and adapt in the future. We are reviewing the design carefully, eliminating non-essential elements, reducing the overall building footprint where possible, and identifying opportunities to construct the facility more efficiently. And finally, perhaps most importantly, with the support of the town manager, we have established a DPW facility work group to help guide this project forward. This work group consists of 7 at-large members of the public who bring a shared interest in the project, along with diverse professional backgrounds that has already proven incredibly valuable. Their role is to help advise the direction of the project, evaluate key decisions about the facility's design, and ensure what we ultimately bring forward reflects what Nantucket truly needs. The goal of the work group is simple: to ensure that the facility we design is appropriate for Nantucket, fiscally responsible, and aligned with a clear shared vision as we enter the final design phase. Our architects can design almost anything we ask for, but we need to be certain about what that should be. The work group has been meeting every 3 weeks since December, and while there is still more work ahead, I'm confident that we are making strong progress towards defining the Nantucket DPW facility that Nantucket needs. For that reason, I respectfully ask for your support of this article. Thank you.
My immediate thought was, I don't think you need to say this article doesn't need an introduction, and I don't think you need to say, unfortunately, this is the third year.
I had the exact same thing, Libby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just be more,
Just don't need to keep reminding them that it's been three times.
Yeah.
Again, thought you were really speaking with the audience. It just came across, again, very, very informal, which was good, in terms of your tone. And it was very clear. The one thing I would say is when you said it, when you summarizing, or before you're summarizing, you say first and second, you can always go first and second, because what that's doing is helping break the points up so that people again can remember. You got to be clear, you got to follow. They're going to be listening for hours to different to different articles. And again, the the more that you can be clear and they can understand, the more that they're taking in the information.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Present so
I
well.
definitely didn't. I'll admit, I didn't
And
practice
so
this a lot.
There'll be more eye contact. And
Yeah.
You'll be the truth that everybody likes. Instead of some
Not
guy
everybody,
reading
but thanks.
Something at a podium.
Instead of,
And
instead
that-
of this one, are you saying?
And that was, excuse me, that was a good word. And I should have said personable. You came across as very personable. I felt so.
Yeah, and it's definitely not very, I would like to polish the language more and obviously practice it a lot. And, so. for
But
rough drafts.
it was, it sounded professional, complete, and informative. Yeah.
What I would add is I think you did a really good job. It might be able to be honed a little bit better about balancing local knowledge with consultant expertise in this process of design development. I think the community doesn't understand that investing in design gets us to a final number so that when they're voting on the number, it's the real number, right? And I think the more we educate around why we invest in design in the first place, but also the fact that the work group exists and that that it's balancing. Look, I know what I think the DPW needs, and I think trucks should be inside because I think it's a good investment, but there's a whole lot of people who don't think so. And we're trying to figure out what the voters will tolerate, like what are real needs versus what are needs that we could live without versus wants, right? And how do we communicate that effectively, that's the process we're going through in order to bring the most cost-effective proposal that actually meets the department's needs. And then if you can get Bobby DaCosta to stand up on this,
Or sit down.
it will, no,
That would be even
stand up
more
and
impressive.
be positive
Yeah.
would be like a huge layup. And I don't know whether I can help.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something we'll talk about in future work group meetings. We have 3 or 4 meetings, I think, between now and town meeting.
Yeah. Because he was vocal. He caused the last one to fail. So if we can get him to shift, I think it'll be monumental.
Yeah, and I'm optimistic. So I think, Libby, I mentioned this to you, Brooke, I don't think you were at the last meeting. And we talked a lot in detail about how big this is, that is. And then he said, I really would like to come see the facility. I said, come out tomorrow. And he did. And we had a really good conversation. And I think we are starting to head in that direction. One thing I've struggled with in terms of writing this is because it's the 3rd time, I don't want to continue to say the same things year after year, get our vehicles inside, save money over time. But I think, not to say I've beaten that, to death, but we did public meetings and I mentioned that stuff. We presented for select board. I've said it at annual town meeting. I think that's already out there. And so please tell me if you think that I need more facts about the merits of the project. But what I've heard most recently from finance committee, capital program committee is kind of like, well, what's different? And, how are you going to move this thing forward? Because you tried and tried, and I get you're trying again, but what's different now?
Yeah.
And why should people change from a no vote to a yes vote? And actually, I checked last year, we were 368 yeses, 370 no's. So, I mean, the definition of 50-50. And right now we do need a majority vote, not 2/3, because it's free cash. I didn't mention that. So I don't know if it makes sense for me to lean in on by the way, there's no tax impact to this. So why not just say yes? But
there's a double-edged sword to these, right? Because the community might perceive that as an end run around 2 no's.
And I tried
So
to
I
stay away
wouldn't
from
touch
that.
on
Yeah.
it unless asked.
Yep.
And then, there's a narrative out there that you should be prepared to answer, which is, well, we've just let the facility fall into disrepair because somebody wants the shiny new thing, right? And I think you got to be really tight about, there is nothing about the existing facility that warrants investment in something that is just not effective for the operations of the department. either by location or what's out there. And we need to be prepared to debunk the idea that we can build it while we're operating there. I mean, that's a hard no. And it's taken the community a long time to realize we couldn't build a new island home on the site while the island home was operating, right? So that's a real thing. You can't do what you do and build a new facility in the same location. And the location thing is out, but I think it's about why haven't we just kept up at Matticat Road over these years? And the bottom line is Matticat Road was never going to satisfy the actual need of the department ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know in the past I have commented on that, which is like, we could fix it up, but it doesn't make it any bigger. Nantucket's grown. We haven't grown. We can't grow in this current space. And there are physical buildings that are not worth investing in. There's 2 school trailers and a portion of a building that was cut off of a larger building at the Tom Nevers Navy base. So at some point we need to catch up on the last 47 years of growth since some of these structures were built.
But
the no's have been because they thought they were investing in a design that they felt was more than we needed. And
Right.
So I think you're focusing on the right thing. Rating and
we could build at the current site only if it wasn't in danger of future flooding and sea level rise.
Which is a
projections.
tough conversation. And some people,
And-
well, now you lost me.
But
I-
also only if we cleared away everything and started over. We can't rebuild anything in place out there. And if the site was completely cleared and everybody moved somewhere else while this was all going on, and we didn't have the other problem, it probably could work there. But
the other thing I've tried to make clear to the voters too is that if you hate this price, you're going to hate it if we stay, because it will cost more. We have temporary facilities that'll disrupt our operations.
Yep.
We'll actually pay more and have less to show for it. And I get that people don't always believe that, but I've tried to get that narrative out there that we're actually proposing the most economical option, which is clear some trees and build on a vacant lot.
I agree. I would stay away from how many times we've done this before, because it will feed into, sometimes I think there's a voter perception that
we said no.
the keyboard warriors say, we say no, and you just keep bringing
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
back until we finally are so tired of it, we just relent.
Right.
Okay. I don't think you should mention it, but I guess, Libby, do we need to be prepared for continued questions about the hunting association and everything?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering. You know,
So, and I always struggle with that. I brought this up during our little 5-minute break earlier with Jeff. I think I could really use some help with that.
Right.
But I also don't even know if I'm the best person to
I-
speak on that,
yeah.
because it's ultimately a land use select board decision. I specifically said Brooke has done a very, very good job
I wasn't-
encapsulating how complex that is and doing it in a delicate way. Because I think it was the March public meeting that you were standing right here and said that.
Yeah, I was not thinking about, I was thinking more long-term, like anticipating questions like we had up there, not putting anything in the presentation. Because I think
Yeah,
you
no,
did a
I'm not-
really good
I'm not
job
gonna
of
bring it
staying
up.
focused on the facts about why we need it for the operations, which is what you're really, the decision on where to site it is kind of a much broader policy decision, but I think we need to anticipate or expect
Yep.
that might happen.
So Brooke's prepared to take that.
Yeah, and I think they're decisions that are done, right? This is going to Shadbush. And if that needs to be addressed, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to go over that history. You shouldn't have to. And same with the hunting association. The funny thing about it is, just for the room, the hunting association brought up taking the Matticat Road site instead of the 1.1 acres at Shadbush. And if they thought those neighbors were going to be hard to convince, they would have to start with a whole new neighborhood of people around guns and noise in their neighborhood, not the least of which one of their board members is a prominent Matticat person who he himself
pretty
doesn't
outspoken.
want it there. So, I mean, there's so much history here, but I'm happy to kind of navigate that on your behalf.
So yeah, I appreciate all these comments. I again wrote this in an effort to stay away from the landmines but be ready to address them if they should come up.
I was listening I know you've gone over this for all these years and we've sat and heard all the arguments for it, but the reality is our population turns over a ton. And there's people sitting in that room that haven't heard it before. And I was thinking, I don't know how many were at the other town meeting, maybe 1,100 or something. They're not watching all of our like select board meetings and everything else. So I would have liked to hear like just a very quick, like, we need a new DPW facility and whatever your, I don't know, your 5 main points. I don't know this answer, like, and I should, because I listened to you talk on this topic, but I don't know how old your buildings are there. So I just maybe say something like our buildings are all built in whatever they're built and they don't meet our needs. We anticipate massive capital increases to keep them up to date if we're not going to build a new facility. This is a very important project for the future of this town. So I would hit that on the opening just as like a primer for people that haven't been paying attention for 3 years. And then the only second piece of feedback is I just don't know if people understand how these big projects get done and that this phase of it is like phase 3 and you've done, 1, 2, this is 3. And then the 4th one is building it, or the 4th one is getting the quote, wherever we're going to be, just so that they understand why are you asking for design plans? Like, what is that? I don't think most people understand that, even though we all do in this room because we deal with it all the time. But I don't think a layperson does.
Yeah.
So just explaining that 5-step process, in a project like this and where you are with it, how far you've come, and what this is and ask for.
I agree with Chief. I wanted to say, I think that some of the more human aspect was a little bit missing in the speech. Just touch on the needs that the community has for this and how it's going to benefit all. Like, it is important. No, it is true. Most people will not know how long we discussed this and how important it is unless you mention the benefits of it.
I think that'd be a good opening.
I have so much to say tonight. The other thing is, in my mind, the DPW touches on every individual's life on Nantucket in some way, right? We drive the roads, we use municipal buildings. You guys do so much. And this team operates out of really crappy conditions. And we're not building the Taj Mahal, we're building a reasonable facility for a critical department of the town that touches every one of your lives. I might do this around the room. And in some way, and I think, I don't know, without sounding condescending or snarky or whatever, how do you have the right tone? Maybe it's every one of you probably can think of a way where our department affects your life or something like that.
Yeah, and that was a main focus of the basically first half of my presentation last year. So if I can boil that, the need for the facility, what do you get for it, how critical this is, and then get into the other stuff. It's probably basically take what I've already said, condense it, start with that, and then move on. So thank you.
All right. Maybe it is time to take a little break. We've been here for over 3 hours, not just getting right at it. So what we still have left to do is, I think you mentioned Florencia, 67, which is solid waste disposal enforcement. We can maybe burn that out right now. That'll take 2 seconds. And I don't think that's going to be a big thing anyway. 68 noise, Brooke's going to do that one. 69, the Council for Human Services membership. I don't think we even need to bother with that one. If we were going to have Jericho come back, we don't.
It's not on there, no.
Revolving fund, Brian, I doubt that's going to even be called. Stormwater management, we're going to do at a later time. The citizen article about 50-year structure demo, we'll do that. So we don't need to bother with that. So really,
Do you think we need a lot on services? I know that Brooks and I are on there for
what's 36 again?
that isn't that about all of our targets?
Oh, I think we're going to basically let Giorgio handle that.
So do you think we can talk about it
No,
today?
no. So actually, maybe we can burn through the rest of this right now. What?
The select board's going to comment on that, so that would be the basis of anything that we say beyond what John says.
Right.
Yeah.
What did we have for Vince?
So we have.
73.
73 bids, 67, 68 blue. That's the one that-
Noise.
Oh, no. And then we have 3 others, Mike Burns is not. You said no.
What are we at? What's Vince's?
73.
What's 73 Baxter? So I don't,
We have 4 more.
okay, so let's talk quickly about that one. For all the town-sponsored articles, if they're called, the idea is the point of contact gets up to explain it. I'm almost thinking, except for this one. And if it is this one, I'm kind of thinking maybe a select board member should do this one, not a staff person. Yeah, Matt. So 73. Yeah, definitely.
So please work with Matt. She have the talking points.
Yes, I have all the talking points and we've been preparing responses to the questions.
I think we want to, you and I meet with Matt and maybe with you, Florencia, but I don't think we need to, I don't think the staff people should be the responsible town officials for explaining this or defending it or anything else. And
I've explained the past years when it was needed. This is like the third time it's coming up.
yeah,
I'm happy either way. I'm prepared for it. Questions for traffic.
Yeah.
Environmental questions. And related.
yeah. Let's you and I talk to Matt separately. So I'm going to jot that down as a separate article. That was 73.
I think Wednesday was a preview.
Yeah, oh, totally. Totally. Okay, so sorry to make you come all the way back here, Vince. You're free to go, but you can also stay here and listen to the rest of our articles. So should we go to 67?
Yes.
Okay, 67, Jody, that's the solid waste disposal enforcement. And I don't think Drew is necessary to speak on it, but somebody might say, well, all the loads come in secured.
All right, well, good afternoon and thank you, Madam Moderator. I am Jody Casper, Chief of Police for the Nantucket Police Department. This article addresses ongoing issues with the town, experiences with trash and debris falling or blowing from unsecured loads, particularly vehicles traveling to the solid waste disposal facility. Currently, town bylaws already require that loads be properly covered and secured, but enforcement authority is limited by how the bylaw is currently structured. This proposed amendment does not create a new requirement. Instead, it clarifies enforcement by allowing the same non-criminal disposition authority already used elsewhere in this chapter, in Chapter 125, to apply to unsecured load violations. This would allow designees of the DPW director to address violations directly at the DPW facility, improving compliance, reducing litter on town roadways, and providing a clear and consistent enforcement mechanism. Yeah. I have that all written. Yeah, I can read that all. I thought, is this a little snoozy? Do you think it's important to include it all?
Well, I think right now it has to be policed, right? So we are, and maybe you don't need to say this in the meeting, but we're reallocating critical police resources to sit on Mattocket Road to look for uncovered loads, when it could just be done when they pull in at the DPW, right?
Well, I'd be a little cautious with that because either way you're pulling resources, whether it's mine or Drew's. So, and we'll still be out on Mattocket Road. So this is really an additional mechanism for enforcement that's not currently written into the bylaw. Yeah.
But I think you might want to lead with what you exactly just said. This is an additional resource to deal with uncovered, unsecured loads that isn't allowed for in the bylaw right now.
Okay, I can add more to that. Or designee. Yep. I know you don't.
Yes, you
Yep.
want to make those, no.
Like if someone comes over the scale, they could issue a ticket, right?
Or or unsecured. Yeah.
We could, what I envisioned true is occasionally some of our solid waste staff, probably Chris, spends a couple hours over there doing things, identifying vendors.
Yeah, random monitoring, yeah.
We thought it was very clear what you were going to be talking about right up front. And again, not creating something new, but just the enforcement of it and all the benefits of it. So it's very, very clear, very concise, very complete.
Great. Thank you.
All right, noise. You can get that, all the better. It'll be very conversational.
Hi, Brooke Moore, Select Board member. The Select Board has supported the noise bylaw change largely because the current version that is before you today makes it more uniform, easier to understand, easier to comply with. And that's really the priority of this change. It makes it more consistent. Before it was different areas of the island, different times of day, and it will be much easier for the police department when they get a call about a noise complaint to understand, what, rather than, am I in this neighborhood or that neighborhood? It's consistent across the island and reflects the growth of noise in the community and managing it more effectively. I can do better than that,
but that's good.
I would just add, when this was discussed at select board, all I could think of this is the common sense.
Yeah.
Very simple. And then I was also thinking that this, and I believe you guys discussed this at select board, which is, this is better for business too. So like, you want to be compliant. Now you're not curious if you're doing the right or wrong thing.
Right.
You don't know what street you're on, what time of the year or day it is.
Easier for businesses to comply. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I missed it, but just a tiny little bit of context, like at the beginning, like this, the purpose of this is to codify everything.
Yep.
One more unit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just
Absolutely. And I am not going to bring up that this started with the Wisconsin Civic Association after this week.
And I agree with what Rick said, then, have a conclusion too.
Yeah.
To be able to do it. So it ties it all in together. But again, if that's what you're doing, obviously you were having a conversation with the people.
So
you were not, obviously you weren't reading something.
Yeah.
But just in terms of that was coming across, and I believe you would maintain everybody's attention.
Yeah. And I think it makes it more uniform, easier to understand, and easier to comply with, and easier to enforce.
Mhm. Okay, so I think that's it.
Oh, 37. No.
George is John. I think George is John.
Is George gonna be there?
No.
No.
Well, Chris will be there. I think Katie John's working with Chris somewhere.
I mean, I can do it. 15 seconds.
I think we can have Giorgio, nail the coffin nail shut, whatever. Well, this is like, if we're gonna talk about, and if we're gonna talk about the third year of something, this is.
This is like the 30th year.
I don't think.
Technology is not commercially viable. It's not perfectly necessary. It's a ton of.
Yeah.
There's no obligation to do it, and we would not be able to do it. If it passes.
Yep.
Unable to implement.
Yeah,
I
and
would just say we're always evaluating new technologies and better processes, but that's not through yet.
So
Mm.
everyone that they comes through.
Okay. All right. We don't need to go over that one. Okay. I admit I'm getting a little bit tired. Is that it? That's it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So our next event then is Thursday, April 9th. And the idea for that is that we are at the high school auditorium. Again, like 9 to noon, we do a mock session. We have specific articles, again, pretty much like what we had today. Run through them. We're not going to stop and do feedback things. We're going to run through them and have mock attendees ask questions. We'll limit it so that it's not, 20 minutes per article or anything like that, just a few. And that'll give us a chance to practice our podium routine. And I'm hoping Sarah can be there. I don't think she's going to be able to though. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to work that with her, but everything will be, most everything will be set up as if we were at town meeting. We'll have a screen, which is another thing. We need, I think Florencia is working on a lot of this, but we need the videos to get completed. I can't remember if we had handouts on some, did we have handouts for articles?
But we're not gonna do that. Not that much paper, so we have the info boards. We're going to need it. How did you go?
Yep. Okay.
The water side, so I still need information.
And we want to have a slide maybe per project possibly. I don't know, we have to figure it out on screen while it's getting talked about, like Our Island Home. Probably a similar slide to what we had last year. It's just a breakdown of the expenses and the tax rate impact.
So don't do them yourself, just send me the
Yeah,
information.
yeah. And Rick, we can send Florencia whatever I'm sure you have what we did last year for the Island Home, the slide that we projected. 9 to noon. The 9th, Thursday, April 9th. We'll send an invite out. We haven't done that yet.
Yes, I don't know.
All right, anybody have any thoughts,
Yeah,
questions?
so any changes to should we? I'm assuming April 9th. Final.
Yeah, it's like a final dress rehearsal sort of a
So
thing.
We should work through town administration on the scripts or with Jeff and.
Well, we don't really necessarily need your scripts. That was just to write up for this and to make sure you were able to give some thought into what you're going to say. Unless you have a video, the video scripts need to get to Florencia. Brian, one quick thing. I might have misheard this. Was there the capital exclusion debt tax value? What was it?
$8.03
For a home valued at
for the average year round. And the home assessed at $1,878,950. Yeah.
$8? Okay, does this sound right? If you put in a home for 3.75 million, that the number would be $145?
On the capital exclusion?
Yeah.
Did you check? We have the year round, we have the residential exemption.
Yes.
And it's $114.
145.
No, that's
Well, you might want to check it.
I'll double check. I'll double check because we've got to, now that we added money for Somerset, we've got to reconfigure that and we can put the article.
Yeah, I just emailed you guys about that and there is no number for. So, I mean, there are some big asks here of our capital projects. A home valued at 3.75 million with a residential exemption, it's $949 if everything was approved. But that has 145 in it for the capital exclusion. And the capital exclusion will be 1 year only, so you could almost take that off, but yeah, it sounded. I'm looking at the tax rate calculator. The island home is, for that particular valued property, is 453. That sounded right.
The capital exclusion doesn't sound, so
Uh-uh.
I'll double check. Okay, we'll make sure.
Okay. All right. If anybody is hearing anything, noticing anything, thinks we should hype up something a little bit more or cover something a little bit better, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to get to work on the videos and start, not quite yet, but as we get a little closer to town meeting, we'll do some social media posts about, we have, thank you, Brooke, or Tom, I forget who came up with, May the 4th be with you. That's gonna, it might have been Tom. In any event, the idea is we do some sort of social media post using that to make people remember.
Radio ads, so we're going to be asking some of the select board members to have their own email. We'll be reaching out. And we are here, I'm still missing information, it's just for the videos. Article 15, and this is what we say, when we talk about the street, that's what we mean, Article 15.
15 is Somerset, so we need to get that from Weston and Sampson. It's the FinCom motion that goes to town meeting. And they kind of said, well, we didn't really have all the information, even though they could have.
We want a video for Article 17. We said no. Oh, 17. I'm more than confident. Maybe.
I don't hate that idea. Last year we did a public meeting in March and it felt like everybody else more aware of what's happening. I feel like it's been a little quieter this year, so it might not hurt to have video. Yeah. We could hit on some of the points from say, but still happening. Just things that work.
Slides again, just think.
All right, thank you guys very, very much. Hopefully this is better answers questions.
Bye, Charlie. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys who are online for hanging in. We appreciate it.